subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
It was obviously the same kid, the same theory. Why was there such a big difference? Ayase Nanao was of course shocked. The basic knowledge that Uehara Shiraha taught seemed to be the same as that of the Shin Spiritual Academy. But in fact it was mixed with some secrets of the great noble families and his unique understanding. As for how Uehara Shiraha got the secret knowledge of those nobles, that was naturally. Can the work of scholars be called stealing? Aizen can see it, but he can't? Chapter 23. Splitting void beyond the limits of the rules at this time. In the captain's office of the 8th Division, Kairaka Shunsui was smiling and looking through the window at the two people who were practicing kid. His niece, Ayase Nanao, was concentrating on taking notes and listening. Occasionally, Uehara Shiraha would personally demonstrate and let Ayase Nanao follow. The two of them taught and learned and made rapid progress. At the beginning, Kairaka Shunsui was still a little worried. Because he was a genius, he might not be able to teach others. When teaching, talents far exceeding students may even become a burden, because he could not understand the difficulties of students. However, soon, Kairaka Shunsui realized that he was superficial. Uehara Shiraha's teaching was not only very solid and steady, but also pointed out the weak points of Ayase Nanao's foundation every time. Kairaku Shunsui could see and understand these shortcomings, but he could not demonstrate them as directly as Uehara Shiraha. After some learning, Ayase Nanao and Uehara Shiraha returned to the inner hall of the team house. Then, the little girl respectfully offered Uehara Shiraha a cup of fragrant tea with both hands. "Teacher Baiyu, your kid is really..." Even if she is well-read, Ayase Nanao can't find a suitable adjective to describe Uehara Shiraha's amazing kid strength at this moment. Now her appearance and expression are like a pilgrimage. Looking at the girl in front of her who admires her so much, Uehara Shiraha smiled slightly. "That's because you have a good talent, so you can understand. It's my luck to have a student like you. It's really comfortable to have a beautiful girl admiring you and serving you attentively. This is much more interesting than scheming and dominating Soul Society." No wonder Aizen first Pua, Hinamori Momo, and then found two lowly subordinates in Hueco Mundo. Aizen knows how to cultivate. Uehara Shiraha feels that he might be on the evil path of questioning Aizen, understanding Aizen, and becoming Aizen. In order to learn kid, Ayase Nanao also tried her best, hammering her shoulders and legs, and used all means to please Uehara Shiraha. She felt that Uehara Shiraha was her teacher, and these were what a disciple should do. Uehara Shiraha felt that this special mission was really worth it. However, Ayase Nanao will definitely learn something real. One is willing to fight, and the other is willing to be beaten. Very scary. After explaining the focus of Ayase Nanao's next training, Uehara Shiraha left the 8th Division's barracks. After a period of chaos, Uehara Shiraha finally returned to the 1st Division's barracks. At this moment, in the 5th Division's barracks, Aizen looked forward, thinking. Aizen-sama. Ikamaru Jin walked in with a smile that remained unchanged for 10,000 years on his face. Aizen smiled slightly. "It seems very lively outside. A 7th seat in the 1st Division, it shouldn't make such a big fuss." Ikamaru Jin's eyes and face did not show any emotion. 7th seat of the 1st team? Uehara Shiraha. Aizen's heart moved, and when he thought of what he said to Tian Fong, an inexplicable light flashed in his eyes again. "Yes, it's him." Ikamaru Jin then reported. "Lord Aizen, we set up space-based kid barriers in several laboratories in Rukongai, according to your instructions. However, that Tsutsuki Naruto did not show up. It seems that this Tsutsuki Naruto is very careful." Aizen's mouth curled slightly. "I hope that his ability can be stronger, so that he doesn't have to be so careful. That would be very interesting. But for the sake of safety, we should start the Hueco Mundo laboratory as soon as possible." "Captain Aizen, are you going to prepare so soon?" Ikamaru Jin was a little surprised. According to the original plan, he would fully advance into Hueco Mundo after he became a captain. It's a bit early to act now, Aizen said gently. Deviation from the original plan is also a transcendence of the original plan. Don't worry, everything is under our control. So act patiently, Jin. At night, Uehara Shiraha went out again. This time, Uehara Shiraha not only wore camouflage glasses on his face, but also a mask. After all, with Hollow, it always feels a bit wasteful not to have a mask. Soon, he came to the secret base. When Uehara Shiraha sensed that there was no one in the base, especially in the hot spring, he was not disappointed. He began to continue his Blade Zen practice. Shinigami Zanpakuto is actually the fusion of alien souls like Gahunmaru, Zero Squad Food, Blood Pond Hell, and even Hollow. The so-called sealed state is hammered out by the sword god Nemiya Wangyue in the Phoenix Hall. Each sealed state contains a compressed alien soul. When Shinigami injects the essence of Ryatsu into the sealed state for a long time, it will merge with this alien soul, which is Shirkai. As for Bankai, it is the manifestation of the alien soul. After years of practice, Uehara Shiraha felt that he had touched the original power of splitting void. Zaraki Kenpachi's permanent Shirkai is just because the weak imagination is insufficient, thinking that it is impossible to kill the captain with the regular form of Zanpakuto. In fact, he used the sealed state form to kill the younger brother of a Nigawa castle with one sword. Then Zaraki Kenpachi became a powerful captain with only the sealed state form of Zanpakuto and simple flat slashing. As for the Zangetsu of the future Ichigo Buddha, it is not the same as the Zanpakuto in the usual sense. Zangetsu Shirkai is just the manifestation of power fragments and has nothing to do with Zanpakuto. So whether in the past, present, or future, splitting void is the only Zanpakuto that can have permanent Shirkai. This is a Zanpakuto that transcends Shinigami rules. Chapter 24. Meeting Shihoin Yoruichi again, Uehara Shiraha was satisfied with the current speed of becoming stronger, and he could complete another special mission soon. The situation was good and worth looking forward to. At this moment, Uehara Shiraha said without looking back, "Are you so afraid of me? I don't bite people." Shihoin Yoruichi walked out of the dark and looked at Uehara Shiraha with a depressed look. "How did you find me?" The Shing Army and the secret mobile team are best at assassination and infiltration, and these two forces are almost equivalent to the private armed forces of the Shihoin family. Therefore, Shihoin Yoruichi has been working hard on lurking, assassination, and shuinpa since she was a child. However, she couldn't even get close to the opponent after practicing the skills for so many years, which really hit her a bit. Uehara Shiraha turned around and looked at Shihoin Yoruichi through the only hole in the mask. This time, Shihoin Yoruichi changed into a purple top and black tights, which set off his almost perfect figure to the fullest. This dress doesn't look like a fight at first glance. He shrugged and answered Yoruichi's question. "Have you heard of Scent of a Woman?" At this time, looking at the yellow spiral mask on Uehara Shiraha's face, Shihoin Yoruichi was a little puzzled. "Why did you suddenly wear a mask? Your eyes are covered. Can you see?" "It's just to avoid seeing. Last time I saw something I shouldn't have seen, it was a bit eye-irritating." Uehara Shiraha's face under the mask was very serious. "I'm really sorry." Shihoin Yoruichi habitually clenched his fist and then released it and continued to test. "Is your mask also a divine weapon from heaven?" "Yes, it's a very powerful divine weapon, and there is a story behind it. This mask comes from a dog who has suffered from hereditary mental red-eye disease since he was a child, but he is cheerful and helpful. He usually helps old ladies cross the road when he has nothing to do. Until he saw his beloved woman die in front of him, he froze his heart and looked around in despair. From then on, I wear a clown mask on my head and I don't love anyone. It is said that if you collect the mask of a fae, Tom's piano, Vigo's sword, and Fiangyang's horn, you can summon the king of dogs to fulfill any wish." The king of Tengu. Shihoin Yoruichi half believed and half doubted. Fulfill any wish? It sounds unreliable. Although what this guy said sounded like nonsense, he said it with a nose and eyes, and he told it in a leisurely manner, and it didn't sound like he was making it up. Which of his words was true and which was false? She really couldn't tell. Uehara Shiraha took a few steps to the pirate flag, picked it up, and unfolded it to Shihoin Yoruchi. Do you see this flag? Yes, then what? Shihoin Yoruchi's expression was calm. Give me money. I'm on the run. I don't have money. Then use a magic weapon as collateral. It doesn't have to be a good one. Just Skyako of that grade will do. Shihoin Yoruchi laughed angrily. You think Skyo is a cabbage. Not to mention that I'm no longer the head of the family. Even if I were the head of the family, I couldn't take out that kind of magic weapon. Then I'll take a loss. Just any magic weapon will do. Uehara Shiraha said, while throwing up and catching the pirate flag in his hand. Shihoin Yoruchi's heart moved, and he chuckled. With your strength, you don't need the help of a magic weapon, right? After all, your Zampicut ability is a space-based one. Uehara Shiraha heard that Shihoin Yoruchi was testing his bottom line. However, he ignored her and threw the pirate flag in his hand, making it land firmly on the ground, then smiled evilly. You also know that with my ability, I can freely enter and exit the Shihoin family's mansion, right? Since the sister refuses to give in, the brother can also do it. Miss Yoruchi, you don't want your lovely Adudu to become my shape, right? You are a beast. Shihoin Yoruchi almost cursed it out loud. The reason why she frequently went in and out of Siriidii recently was to arrange family affairs, especially to protect her brother Yashiro. Otherwise, it would be difficult to arrange when people left and the tea was cold. Unexpectedly, before she had figured out the bottom of this Tsutsuki Naruto, he pointed out her weakness. The key is that Shihoin Yoruchi knows that this Tsutsuki Naruto is really capable of threatening Yashiro. This guy is more mysterious than Aizen and more shameless than Aizen. What sin did Siriidii commit to produce such a pair of crouching dragon and phoenix? Helplessly, Shihoin Yoruchi suggested, cooperate. As long as you join forces with us to deal with Aizen, you can get what you want. Cooperate. Uehara Shiraha touched his chin, pondered for a moment, and asked in a very serious tone, I want the things, but I don't want to cooperate. What do you think I should do? You should die. Shihoin Yoruchi almost exploded. It was too annoying. Uehara Shiraha smiled lightly. I'm anxious. I'm anxious. You're anxious. Shihoin Yoruchi threw a punch, but of course it missed. Looking at the phantom like Tsutsuki Naruto, she finally calmed down and asked in confusion, why don't you cooperate with us? This is good for both of us. With your ability, you won't be afraid of Aizen, right? It's not a matter of fear or not. Uehara Shiraha said in a matter-of-fact tone. Of course I will stand on the side of the winner. Shihoin Yoruchi said confidently. Aizen is just a villain hiding in the dark. He can't fool everyone, and we will be able to return to Siriidii soon. Now she really thinks so. Uehara Shiraha almost laughed out loud and mercilessly mocked. What did you rely on to come back? Will of fire, will of D, dark will, or golden spirit? You still don't understand why you lost. You and Aizen are not playing the same game at all. You are playing hide and seek, while he is playing a real-life version of werewolf. I didn't knife you all just because the timing was wrong. That is, he doesn't think highly of Siriidii's little piece of land. Otherwise, you all have to kneel down and call him Captain Aizen. Uehara Shiraha does not underestimate the power of bonds and protection. But in reality, those who wear shoes are afraid of those who are barefoot, and those who are pointed at by guns are generally honest people. Shihoin Yoruchi was not discouraged. What is fake. One day, everything will be revealed and he will show his flaws. Uehara Shiraha chuckled. As a member of the Five Nobles, don't you know? Our world is a palace built of lies. You Five Nobles and Soul Society are also built on lies. So the truth is not important at all. In fact, the Five Nobles who now claim to protect the Soul King are the culprits who tore the Soul King apart back then. The so-called protection of the Soul King by the Zero Squad and the Five Nobles is actually guarding the corpse of the Soul King. This is the biggest secret of Soul Society, an absolute taboo. Shihoin Yoruchi's pupil shrank, and he said in surprise, You even know this. It seems that your Tsutsuki family is indeed one of the ancient families. After that, Her eyes became cold. So you want to stand on Aizen's side? Facing Shihoin Yoruchi's sharp eyes, Uehara Shiraha shook her head and said in a relaxed tone, "Not really. I mean that your ideological height and overall view are not in the same dimension as Aizen. You need a leader to preside over the overall situation." Chapter 25. A high-ranking officer? All you need is hands. In the secret base, Shihoin Yoruchi's mouth twitched. She looked at Uehara Shiraha with contempt and said, "Is this leader you were talking about you yourself? I have never seen such a person who can get something for nothing, and he is trying to fool a fool. It doesn't have to be me, but you're not capable, so I have to do it." Uehara Shiraha straightened his chest. Shihoin Yoruchi's patience was finally exhausted, and he put his hands on his hips. "Don't you just want to benefit from it? Then you're not thinking of using me as a cannon fodder to contain Aizen." From beginning to end, Uehara Shiraha sneered at the so-called cooperation. Even a good person like Strawberry Kurosaki Ichigo was calculated by Uehara Kisuke and Shihoin Yoruchi. If it were me, these two people would only calculate more cruelly. Those who have watched Shinigami know that when you see Uehara Kisuke and Aizen, just do it directly and don't listen to them. Otherwise, you will die without knowing how. The twists and turns in the intestines of these two guys are so complicated that a glass bead can't be rolled away even in a year. Uehara Shiraha himself is not a thousand-layer cake and is too lazy to use his brain, so he just won't take any soft or hard tactics. "What do you do to me?" Shihoin Yoruchi really has no way to deal with Uehara Shiraha and said helplessly, "You can't expect to get benefits without doing anything, right? The cooperation itself is a cover. They just want to stabilize this Tsutsuki Naruto. This is also a helpless move. After all, Aizen's Kaika Sujetsu, at least there are traces to follow. This Tsutsuki Naruto is a mystery regardless of his identity or ability, just like a ghost. Aizen alone is tricky enough, and with this extremely mysterious Tsutsuki Naruto, they really can't handle it." Uehara Shiraha said confidently, "It is precisely because I did nothing that you should give it to me. I could have just robbed it." You know, Shihoin Yoruchi felt a little itchy, so she could only compromise. "Since we can't cooperate, let's exchange resources. I'll give you the magic weapon, and you'll give us intelligence. How about that?" The situation was stronger than she was, so she could only bow her head. "I didn't expect that she, the head of the Shihoin family and the captain of the second squad, would have such a day of compromise." Uehara Shiraha felt that the time was almost right, so she suggested, "I'll give you a better choice. Not only will I not touch your brother, but I'll also protect him more when I'm free." "Okay." Shihoin Yoruchi agreed without hesitation. Although Yashiro would not easily get into trouble in the noble mansion, Yoruchi knew how dark and corrupt the Siriidii nobles were. So, she was always a little worried. It's okay to have an extra insurance now, just as a protection fee. Uehara Shiraha clapped his hands and said, "The deal is done. Congratulations on making the right choice. This is like picking up a magic weapon for free. It will be a waste if you don't take it." He knew that Shihoin Yoruchi and Uehara Kisuke wanted to stabilize themselves temporarily. However, Uehara Shiraha didn't care. In the end, Shihoin Yoruchi took out the magic weapon that he had prepared long ago and gave it to Uehara Shiraha, and then left in a hurry. She was afraid that if she stayed here any longer, she would not be able to help but hit someone. Who can bear to lose a magic weapon in vain and be ridiculed by others after coming out? Uehara Shiraha soaked in the hot spring. He took a look at the magic weapon in his hand and then put it in the splitting void space so that it could slowly merge with the death glove. This rope magic weapon is obviously not a good thing. It should be the lowest grade. However, he does not need a very good magic weapon for the time being. If a magic weapon is too good, the death glove cannot be integrated. And this is just the beginning. As the 7th seat of the first team, there is no way to make trouble, and there is no need to make trouble. You just need to be a salty fish all day. The identity of Tsutsuki Naruto cannot be wasted. It's time to put a little pressure on Uehara Kisuke, Shihoin Yoruchi, and Aizen. In this way, it will be convenient for him to get the best of both worlds. Let alone other things. Uehara Shiraha can eat Yashiro's weakness for a lifetime. When he woke up early the next morning, Uehara Shiraha first completed the daily task quickly. This task of singing is also relatively easy to complete. Just sing something. He completed this task easily and attracted a lot of applause in the First Division dormitory. Uehara Shiraha put his left hand on his chest and took off his hat with his right hand, which attracted the screams of the girls. After so many daily tasks, Uehara Shiraha is proficient in piano, chess, calligraphy, painting, and singing, and can be regarded as a trend-setting figure. Many female Shinigami in Seriidii also start with appearance and be loyal to talent for Uehara Shiraha. This is why Uehara Shiraha is considered worthy of saving on the blacklist of the Female Shinigami Association, while Kaiaraka Shunsui is a complete negative example. After receiving the reward of Kid +1, Shadow Clone Proficiency +1, Uehara Shiraha rushed to the 8th Division dormitory. The girlish Ayase Nanao had been waiting for many days and prepared a delicious breakfast, all made by her own hands. Uehara Shiraha tasted it, and then nodded to the nervous Ayase Nanao. "It suits my taste very well. You are very attentive." The latter immediately breathed a sigh of relief and said loudly, "Teacher Uehara, whether it is kid or cooking, I will practice harder." "Very good, very energetic." Uehara Shiraha enjoyed Ayase Nanao's loving breakfast and careful service. At this time, in the 8th Division's office, Kaiaraka Shunsui, who saw this scene, suddenly felt that the medicinal food in his hand was more bitter. "Recently, there's too much work, and I have no time to rest during the day and night. My old ways can't stand it, so I can only make up for it." Sometimes Kaiaraka Shunsui really envies Uehara Shiraha's iron waist and super high popularity. He suddenly had a bad premonition that his niece was going to give it away at the speed of light. Why does it feel like letting a wolf into the house? But if it is Uehara Shiraha, it is not impossible. At the kid training ground of the 8th Division, Nanao Ayase was chanting earnestly, "The king, the mask of flesh and blood, the one who has the name of man. Scorching heat and strife, rolling south across the sea, step forward. Had number 31, red fire cannon." Then, she waved her right hand forward. As Ryatsu condensed, a dragon-like pillar of fire emerged from her hand, roaring and hitting the target in the distance, completely shattering it. Seeing this scene, Nanao Ayase was stunned. "Only a high-ranking kid can break this target, but the day before yesterday, I clearly couldn't break this target." Ayase Nanao looked at her hands and couldn't believe that this was the kid she released. It only took one night for her strength to improve by leaps and bounds. Thinking of this, Ayase Nanao turned around and looked at Uehara Shiraha with gratitude. "Mr. Uehara, thank you for your teaching. If it weren't for you, I would never have made such rapid progress." Looking at Ayase Nanao, who was about to cry for joy, Uehara Shiraha shook her head and said, "It's just a high-ranking officer. It's not enough to have hands. Calm down." Hearing this, the girl's eyes were full of admiration. Chapter 26. The expanding Tanishiro family. If someone else said this, Ayase Nanao would think that the other person was arrogant. But when Uehara Shiraha said this, it was very convincing. First of all, Uehara Shiraha is famous for his love of playing and his ability to play in Seriidii. But at the same time, Uehara Shiraha is also a famous genius, powerful and versatile. More importantly, Ayase Nanao personally experienced Uehara Shiraha's superb teaching level and his amazing kid skills. Looking at Ayase Nanao's admiring eyes, Uehara Shiraha smiled slightly. If this task system is replaced with a good impression system, the good impression prompt should be all over the screen now. Next, the two began the same teaching process as yesterday. After some study, Ayase Nanao's kid skills have improved a lot, and he is more admiring and grateful to Uehara Shiraha. Uehara Shiraha is also very satisfied with Ayase Nanao's progress. With Ayase Nanao's progress, this special task is not difficult and can be completed quickly. Thinking that he would have new abilities or props soon, He became even happier. It is estimated that after completing this special mission, Suriidi's battle against Hueco Mundo will almost begin, and Uehara Shiraha will have to contribute. After all, the three old men in the first team have been patient with him for a long time, and they probably want to take this opportunity to hone themselves. Uehara Shiraha didn't care about this at all. In the evening, he still came to the flower street to drink and have fun. Master Baiyu, you haven't been here for several days. The courtesan, named Matsuko, had a sweet smile of satisfaction on her face. This gentleness and sweetness can only be enjoyed by Uehara Shiraha. This Matsuko has been following Uehara Shiraha from the beginning and has become his exclusive courtesan. Then the two of them poured tea and wine, and the other tasted it carefully. Occasionally, Matsuko would smile when they talked, and her beautiful face would shine under the lights. Uehara Shiraha also enjoyed this atmosphere. He actually doesn't like fighting and killing, and of course he doesn't allow anyone to fight and kill him. While enjoying it, Uehara Shiraha's expression changed, and he listened attentively. The maid's voice of stopping and a rude voice came from outside. I am the guard of the Tsunyashiro family. Why is a mere geisha so arrogant? I have never heard of the first team and the seventh seat. These Shinigami are just raised by my master. Hearing these words, Uehara Shiraha smiled at Matsuko and said, "Pour me a glass of wine. I'll be back soon." After saying that, he got up, opened the door, and walked out. At this time, the Shinigami of the Tsunyashiro family was drawing a sword to scare the two maids. The maids in the flower street are not powerless, and they can usually be used as half-guards, so they stopped this Shinigami. As the dog of a noble, this Shinigami is also used to being arrogant, and he directly drew his sword. In just a moment, Uehara Shiraha had a clear understanding of all the situations around him. There were no other Shinigami except the two diligent Shingjuan sentinels. After confirming that this was not a trap, Uehara Shiraha drew his sword and shouted, "Where did the lunatic come from? How dare you draw your sword against the seventh seed of the first team? Stop it!" Before the Shinigami of the Tsunyashiro family could react, a force of extreme cold rushed over and froze him into ice. Uehara Shiraha deliberately increased the strength. Even if the Shinigami of the Tsunyashiro family survived this time, he would only be a waste. The two Shingjuan sentinels sent by Sui Feng in the dark were stunned when they saw this scene. What should we do in this situation? Should we continue to track or take him down directly? It seems that we can't beat him. While they were still struggling, Uehara Shiraha passed by and shouted, "There are accomplices. Who are you? How dare you conspire to murder this seventh seat?" The knife followed the man, and silently, the white album ability of the stand was activated, and two more ice sculptures appeared on the ground. But this time, he did not use heavy hands. It was not to give Sui Feng face, but he did not want to offend two great nobles at the same time. In that case, Old Man Yamamoto would have to spend more effort to protect himself. Then he would be scolded. After doing all this, Uehara Shiraha went back to continue drinking. The wine is still warm. Not bad. Matsuko, who was originally a little pale, smiled with admiration. "Brother Baiyu, maybe I have implicated you." Kairaku Shunsui, who came to inquire quickly, dealt with the aftermath and apologized. "In the past few hundred years, I have caused a lot of trouble for Tsunyashiro, and I have a deep conflict with them. You are my friend, so it is inevitable that they will bear a grudge against you. Recently, the Tsunyashiro family has been fierce. You have to be careful. Among the 5 great nobles, the family guarding hell has basically withdrawn from Soul Society. The Shiba family also exiled themselves to Rukongai, away from the center of power. The Kachiki family adhered to the rules of the 6th Division and the nobles. Originally, the Shihoin family was okay. After all, they controlled the 2nd Division, the Shing Army, and the secret mobile team. But after Yoruchi defected, decline was inevitable. So the Tsunyashiro family became the biggest beneficiary. Recently, the Tsunyashiro family has been expanding wildly, and its arrogance has become very arrogant. This provocation to Uehara Shiraha is actually a test of Godei 13. The nobles in Godei 13 are 2 systems, and the nobles are the nominal rulers of Godei 13, and Kairaku Shunsui can't do anything about them. Uehara Shiraha looked indifferent. Brother Kairaku, you are too polite. With the relationship between the two of us, there is no need to say whether it will be implicated or not. I don't cause trouble, but I'm not afraid of it. Even if the other party has a great background, I have the captain-in-chief to support me. This is really an unprovoked disaster. Kairaku Shunsui was born in a noble family and was the captain of the 8th Division. He was very good at making plans. So, they wanted to pick on the weak. This was a coincidence. Originally, Uehara Shiraha wanted to make a move on the Tsuneyashiro family. But before he could make a move, the other party came first. Hearing what Uehara Shiraha said, Kairaku Shunsui laughed dumbly. You are worthy of it. In the end, the matter was left unresolved. The Tsuneyashiro family, or all the nobles of Siriidii, did not have the confidence to turn the table with Captain Yamamoto. The old nobles knew exactly what kind of ruthless character the first-generation Godei 13 was 1,000 years ago. They were just surprised that the Yamamoto Genrisai, who always abided by the rules, would protect this kid. Who on earth was this Uehara Shiraha? Not only was he so bold, but he was also treated differently by old man Yamamoto. Among them, Suifeng was the most angry. She looked at the two men who had just recovered and shouted, "You are the elite of the first squad of the Shing army, but you were captured so easily. You really bring shame to our Shing army." In her heart, she wanted to send Uehara Shiraha directly to the worm nest. But the captain had spoken, so she had to obey. Chapter 27, Night Exploration of Noble Street at Night. After leaving a shadow clone as a cover, Uehara Shiraha has quietly walked towards Siriidii Noble Street. Noble Street is located east of the 6th Division's barracks, almost in the center of Siriidii. Its central block is lined with nobles' luxurious mansions, medical institutions, high-end restaurants, and other facilities exclusively for nobles. If you are not a noble and do not have permission, even a captain-level Shinigami is not qualified to set foot here. In fact, if you don't mind, you can also approach Noble Street through the sewers of Siriidii. However, Uehara Shiraha has the hollow ability, so of course he doesn't need to do this. Although the protection measures of Noble Street are not as outrageous as those from Siriidii to the Soul King Palace, they should not be underestimated. Along the way, Uehara Shiraha has noticed several invisible barriers and obstacles composed of murderous stones. Even for ordinary captain-level Shinigami, it is not so easy to break through the defenses here. However, these obstacles are completely non-existent for Uehara Shiraha in the hollow state. As he walked forward, he thought if he could draw an item similar to the Marauder's map in Harry Potter, would it be lively on the map? On the surface, Siriidii was peaceful. In fact, there were hidden dragons and crouching tigers, and demons were dancing everywhere. At night, all kinds of Jaiki snake gods would come out for a stroll. There was Aizen, who loved to study, a good sister who cared about her brother, Karatsuchi Mayuri, who was tinkering with experimental materials, Zaraki Fuya, who was observing secretly, and Tsunyashiro Tokunada, who was ready to destroy his entire family. Each of them had unique skills, but none of them could beat his hollow ability. Uehara Shiraha had a smooth journey and soon arrived at the center of the Noble Street. Here, he saw a row of mansions. One of them had a nouveau riche vibe, and the nameplate was marked with the 3 words Omida. This should be the mansion of the Omida family, also a famous nouveau riche in the Shinigami world, the kind of rich and inhumane. Former god Omida Marekio is only a vice captain, but he can easily buy a gem mine. However, Omida Marekio has not yet taken office as the vice captain of the 2nd Division and the captain of the 2nd Squad of the Secret Mobile Team. Because his father Omida Nozomi just retired and has not yet completed the handover procedure. These days, Omida Nozomi and some Shinjuan elders should have been guarding near the Shihoin family's mansion, just in case. In that place, Uehara Shiraha vaguely felt several waves of Ryatsu. Obviously, with the defection of Shihoin Yuruchi, some forces have set their sights on this piece of fat meat. Although these nobles, like the pervert nation, have engraved the so-called respect and inferiority and rules into their bones. The lower overthrows the upper is also their tradition. Don't forget that the power of the five nobles comes from the backstab of the Spirit King. If you really think that everything will be fine if you follow the rules, then your bones will be swallowed by others. The five nobles were not united, but were calculating against each other and fighting secretly. Thinking of this, Uehara Shiraha looked up and saw an exceptionally luxurious building. This mansion was much taller than other buildings around it. Its roof was long, wide, and luxurious. The mainstream architectural style of Seoul society was similar to that of the Heian period. The buildings on the street were basically four-cornered buildings with gray walls and red tiles as roofs. The style was simple and integrated into nature. Except for special facilities, there were no more than 3 floors. Even the noble mansions on the noble street were no exception. A piece of silver and white wind, an elegant veil, worn by Byakuya Kachiki, was worth 10 buildings. She must be rich enough. But the Kachiki mansion in the opposite direction was just in order, unlike the mansion in front of him, which seemed to be declaring itself the ruler of this place. And this was the mansion of the Tsuneyashiro family. It was also the first Tsuneyashiro family to backstab the Soul King, and they went to extremes and dismembered the Soul King. Haki exposed, looking for death. Uehara Shiraha sentenced the Tsuneyashiro family to death in his heart. He couldn't stand the extravagance of other nobles. One street occupied 99% of Siriaidi's wealth and resources. Is this reasonable? Uehara Shiraha decided to manually break the situation of the disparity between the rich and the poor in Siriaidi. He wanted to get justice for the people of Seoul society. Besides, although it was uncertain, maybe the Tsuneyashiro family had already set their sights on him and wanted to plot against him. This was already a death sentence. Because time was limited, Uehara Shiraha did not hesitate and directly sent Shadow Clone to randomly select a lucky person. The next day, a piece of news spread throughout the noble street, causing an uproar among several great nobles. Last night, Tsuneyashiro Kamagawa, a member of the main family of the Tsuneyashiro family, was killed, and only the Shing army markers were found at the scene. Although Tsuneyashiro Kamagawa usually has a bad reputation, he could be said to be a villain and has killed several people. But for the Tsuneyashiro family, the lives of a few untouchables are nothing. Who cares if something like an ant dies? The Tsuneyashiro family, which has always regarded itself as the head of the 5 great nobles, looks down on Shinigami, civilians, and even those lower-level nobles. Shinigami can die at will, untouchables can die at will, but the noble Tsuneyashiro family cannot die in vain. This is a provocation, it is a shame. So the Tsuneyashiro family immediately put pressure on the 46th room. Generally, the internal affairs of the 5 great nobles and some major decisions concerning Seoul society are decided by the Gold Seal Noble Council. Gold Seal Noble Council is a subordinate meeting body of the 5 great nobles, and its status is still above Central 46. Central 46 is mainly responsible for handling Godiai 13 related affairs, as well as daily management of Siriaidi, formulating relevant rules, etc. However, when it comes to the specific implementation stage, both the Gold Seal Noble Council and Central 46 need Godiai 13 and the secret mobile team to cooperate. So, in the end, this matter still falls on Captain Yamamoto. At this time, the old man was holding a cane, closing his eyes, and asked, "Last night, the people of the Tsuneyashiro family were killed, and the Shing army logo was left at the scene. What is going on?" Although, nominally, the secret mobile team is also part of the 2nd Division. In fact, the ownership of this unit is in the hands of several nobles. The secret mobile team is equivalent to a buffer so that Yamamoto Genrisai and the nobles will not directly conflict. This will save both sides' faces. However, with Shihoin Yoruchi's escape from Seoul society, the situation has changed. "I don't know, Captain." Suifeng was also confused. Could it be that the Shihoin family is going to fight with the Tsuneyashiro family? I haven't heard of it. She's in a state of panic. Suifeng feels that she has never had a smooth life since she met Uehara Shiraha. Not long ago, two Shinjuin were accused by Uehara Shiraha of being accomplices of the thieves and were frozen. The lawsuit has not been settled yet, and the perpetrator Uehara Shiraha has not received the punishment he deserves. The Shinjuin and she, the newly appointed commander of the Shinjuin, have become the laughingstock of Siriiti. Suifeng was already very angry, and now this kind of thing happened again. It's really Chapter 28, Undercurrent of Siriai. You are the commander of the Shing army, don't you know? Yamamoto Jinrasai frowned, paused, and said, "This incident happened in the Noble Street. Godei 13 can't intervene. Secretly, we must investigate this matter as soon as possible, because the Shing army and the Shihoin family are too deeply involved. Yamamoto Jinrasai doesn't want to be involved in the struggle of the great nobles. So he just dealt with the order of the 46th room casually." Yes, Suifeng received the order respectfully. She has always attached great importance to rules and orders. At this time, Yamamoto Jinrasai seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, "Also, you should know about the strategic deployment of Hueco Mundo. Now the Shing army can be prepared. At that time, you will be needed to explore intelligence and pass on information. I will definitely not let you down, Captain." Suifeng felt a sense of responsibility in his heart and decided to perform well and surprise everyone. A few days later, almost all high-level Shinigami knew the news that the main family members of the Tsuneyashiro family were killed. The murder of a member of the great nobles was a terrible incident that had almost never happened before. Aizen and other old silver coins also paid a little attention to it and expressed their own ideas. Although the Tsuneyashiro family did not openly target the Shihoin family, they were more actively weakening the power of the Shihoin family in secret. Because the head of the family defected, the Shihoin family could only passively take the beating. During the process, Suifeng led people to the Tsuneyashiro family for an investigation, but there was no result. Except for the abrupt Shinjuin armband, there were no clues left at the scene. Suifeng had some guesses, but it was not easy to say directly. So the Tsuneyashiro family weakened the Shinjuin to a certain extent on the grounds that the Shinjuin was not capable enough. Because in the eyes of the Tsuneyashiro family, the expansion of the Shinjuin was most beneficial to the Shihoin family. Therefore, even if the Shinjuin was also serving them, the Tsuneyashiro family did not hesitate to weaken the Shinjuin. A strange and bizarre murder case made the undercurrent of the original Siriiti surge more intense. At this time, Uehara Shiraha was teaching Ayase Nanao Kid in the 8th Division training ground as if nothing had happened. He told Ayase Nanao with a relaxed look, "Don't hesitate. Use your most powerful and best kid to hit me. Only in this way can I know where you are lacking." It must be said that having a sensible and talented female apprentice is indeed very worry-free and comfortable. Just a little bit of real things. Ayase Nanao's kid practice has been greatly improved. At this rate, the 3-month mission deadline is more than enough, and even less than a month. At 58 Tanlon, instantly, Ryatsu condensed, Kid took shape, and she raised her palm to release had at Uehara Shiraha's right shoulder. A raging hurricane instantly rushed towards Uehara Shiraha. Under the impact of the intermediate Kid, Uehara Shiraha's body did not move at all. After a little burst of Ryatsu, he casually pushed forward with his right hand, and the hurricane with extremely strong impact instantly dissipated into nothingness. Ayase Nanao, who had just performed Kid, only felt her body sink. The air around her seemed to turn into rock and press down, making her breathless. However, this suffocating feeling soon disappeared. When she looked up, she saw that her Kid, which she had released with all her strength, was easily defeated by Uehara Shiraha. Seeing this scene, Ayase Nanao was inevitably a little depressed and felt that she was so weak. She had obviously improved so much. Why was she still so vulnerable? Noticing Ayase Nanao's expression, Uehara Shiraha smiled slightly. "Don't be discouraged. Your Kid has basically reached the top of the officer level. If you can break through, you can reach the vice captain level." Vice captain level. Ayase Nanao felt like she was dreaming and was extremely shocked in her heart. "Teacher Uehara, how is this possible? Before, her kid was just barely at the officer level. But Uehara Shiraha only taught her for one day, and she had the kid's strength of a high-level officer. This was already scary enough. Now, how many days have passed, and her kid is about to reach the vice captain level? This is too fast, so Ise Nanao doesn't dare to believe it is true. Looking at the surprised Nanao Ise, Uehara Shiraha smiled. Nothing is impossible. Vice captain is just the beginning. Yes, Mr. Uehara. Even if Nanao Ise now doubts himself, he will not doubt Uehara Shiraha. Looking at Nanao Ise, whose aura is getting better and better, Uehara Shiraha nodded with satisfaction and gave instructions again. In fact, the vice captain level is not difficult. You just need to have a solid foundation and meet the Ryatsu standard. In addition, you must have your own spirit, and your aura and faith must be stable. The Shinigami power system aura is very idealistic. Zanpakuto without faith is weak and can't cut anyone at all. This kind of faith aura is also reflected in the strength and quality of Ryatsu. For example, ordinary seed officers are like babies in Uehara Shiraha's eyes, without any threat. Their power is blank, just like a blank sheet of paper. The vice captain level is a bit interesting. Although it still can't pose a threat to him, the opponent's Ryatsu and skills are at least not empty. Ise Nanao was thoughtful and had a lot of insights again. At this moment, Kairaku Shunsui, who had been waiting for a long time, came out with a smile, and then nodded to Uehara Shiraha. Brother Baiyu, let's talk? Uehara Shiraha smiled and followed him out. The two walked on the green grass to the courtyard, and Kairaku Shunsui smiled and said, Brother Baiyu, thank you for taking care of the child. However, I was really shocked. I didn't expect your strength and teaching level to be so strong. It only took a few days for Ise Nanao's kid to surpass the kid elites. This is really unlike Aizen, the old silver coin. In front of Kairaku, Shunsui, and others, Uehara Shiraha never concealed the fact that he had hidden his strength. Because of this, the three old men of the first team and Kairaku Shunsui knew that Uehara Shiraha's strength far exceeded his current seat. Kairaku Shunsui also guessed that Uehara Shiraha's true strength might have reached the vice captain level. However, it was not until today that Kairaku Shunsui realized how wrong he was. He still underestimated Uehara Shiraha. The vice captain level was no threat to Uehara Shiraha. Nothing. Chapter 29. Special care from Mr. Yamamoto. No, it's just a piece of cake. Facing Kairaku Shunsui's heartfelt thanks, Uehara Shiraha was polite. He actually didn't mind showing off his powerful Ryatsu and powerful Zankenkizo in front of Kairaku, Shunsui, and others, because his real trump card is the mission system and splitting void. As for teaching Ise Nanao kid, it's just a piece of cake. Completing the special mission is the key. Kairaku Shunsui adjusted his bamboo hat with his hand, and his expression under the shadow became serious for the first time. For you, it's just a piece of cake. But for me, for that child, it's very important. Since Lisa's accident, I have been regretting it. I was too careless and shouldn't have let her perform that mission. I am afraid that Nanao will also encounter such a difficult situation. And Nanao can't use Zanpakuto. Now that you are teaching Nanao, I feel much more relieved. Brother Kairaku, you are too polite. As for Lisa's matter, it's not your fault. At this point, Uehara Shiraha smiled and said, You don't have to worry about it in the future. As a teacher, I will definitely protect Nanao. You can rest assured to leave Nanao to me. The smile on Kairaku Shunsui's face solidified, and he clenched the Kaiten Kaikatsu in his hand. After joking, Kairaku Shunsui remembered the serious matter. Do you know about the incident at the Tsuneyashiro family? If this kind of tragedy happened to someone else, he would be angry and would pursue it. If it happened to that kind of scum, Kairaku Shunsui would just drink a few more glasses. Such a big thing, of course I know about it. What's wrong? How could Uehara Shiraha not know? This thing was caused by him. Kairaku Shunsui smiled and said, Room 46 is very dissatisfied with Xing Jun's ability, So they're going to let the first division monitor it to see if there is anything that needs to be improved. Old man Sean is going to put the task on you. This way you can meet that girlfriend. Are you very touched? Not really. Looking at Kairako Shunsui, who was gloating, Uehara Shiraha said helplessly, "Everyone knows that there's a little misunderstanding between me and Captain Sui Feng, but he still asked me to go." Old man Sean did this on purpose. Isn't it just that I took advantage of him for a few days, and I also took advantage of him to take advantage of a few bottles of wine? That's too stingy. That's a treasure. I haven't even drunk it much. Can I order a few bottles of wine? Kairaku Shunsui pointed it out without hesitation and reminded, "You still have to be more serious about the second division. After all, we have a big move next, and we need Xing Jun's cooperation." Kairaku Shunsui has no doubt about Uehara Shiraha's ability. If it were before, he would still be afraid that his little brother would be embarrassed by Xing Jun. But now, with Uehara Shiraha's strength, it's still uncertain who will make things difficult for whom. Appoint Hueco Mundo, right? It's time to attack. Otherwise, Minos Grande will come to Siriidii to dance. Uehara Shiraha also knew that the Hollows have become more and more active recently, whether in the real world or Rukongai. If they don't come, they can't even survive the new year. For this, Uehara Shiraha has already made sufficient preparations. In addition, the reward for a special mission will be credited soon, so he is not panicked at all. As for the second team, a mere Sui Feng, what a big deal. After all, they're Old Man Sean and Kairaku in front of everything. He is not afraid of offending the nobles. Even if he really offends the nobles, the worst thing is to go to the real world to be free and easy. What a big deal. Next, the two discussed some strategic deployments of Hueco Mundo for a while. Such a big move requires close cooperation among all the squads and the full cooperation of the kid people. Taking advantage of the absence of the chief and deputy kid leaders, Kuratsuchi Mayuri took the opportunity to gather many good players from the kid people, which is equivalent to poaching the nobles. As expected of the training in Worm Nest, his mind is active. Uehara Shiraha also casually expressed some opinions. He read the script, which is equivalent to having a full picture vision, and his insights are naturally extraordinary. Often just a few words can get to the point, making Kairaku Shunsui nod repeatedly and call it awesome. When night came, Kairaku Shunsui and Uehara Shiraha came to the flower street with their arms around each other and started another night of paper and money. In the wine house in the flower street, Uehara Shiraha Ryatsu moved and his eyes became clear. Ryatsu is strong. It's good. He can sober up with a little spiritual power. And if it doesn't work, he still has the horse charm. As for Kairaku Shunsui, who was reluctant to wake up, it was because wine does not intoxicate people, but people get drunk by themselves, and he was looking for that kind of smoky feeling. Although Uehara Shiraha liked the atmosphere here, he did not want to be in a drowsy state all the time. Then, Uehara Shiraha used Shuinpa and returned to his team house. After using the horse spell to explore again, Uehara Shiraha removed all shadow, clone one by one. After absorbing and digesting, his strength has steadily increased. After thinking about it, Uehara Shiraha left a shadow clone in the team house. His main body took advantage of the thick night to go to the secret base under Skyaku Hill. This time, Uehara Shiraha only wore camouflage glasses without a mask. After all, he is not Mom Zephyr, and it is still a bit awkward to see things alone. Tsutsuki Naruto, you killed Tsuneshiro Kamagawa, didn't you? As soon as he arrived at the secret base, Shihoin Yoruchi, who had been waiting for a long time, couldn't wait to come up and ask for accusations. Now, she still has control over the Xing army, so she doesn't believe that it was the Xing army who did it. And even if she did it, it would not be so easy. After all, the barriers and defenses of the nobles are not for show, and those people are more afraid of death than ordinary people. The only ones who can do this are Tsutsuki Naruto and Aizen. Uehara Shiraha casually took out a chair from the space and lay down, saying lazily, "As far as I know, your family and the Tsuneshiro family don't have a good relationship. If Tsuneshiro Kamagawa dies, then so be it. Why are you in such a hurry? Seeing that this Tsutsuki Naruto did not deny it, Shihoin Yoruchi's eyes became sharp. Why did you attack the nobles? Generally speaking, Shinigami would not attack the nobles, which was completely thankless. Didn't you ask me to do it? Uehara Shiraha pretended to be very confused. Shihoin Yoruchi sneered. When did I ask you to do this? When did you become so obedient? Didn't you tell me to protect Yashiro? And you gave me a magic weapon, Uehara Shiraha said seriously. I thought that the best defense is offense, so I killed that BD from the Tsuneshiro family. Kill the monkey to scare the chickens, so that others will naturally not dare to provoke your Shihoin family. But this breaks the rules. Shihoin Yoruchi looked very serious. These great nobles have a tacit understanding with each other. No matter how fierce the internal fighting is, they will not start with the noble members. It doesn't matter how many Shinigami, guards, and death warriors die, but the nobles, especially the members of the 5 great nobles, cannot die. Uehara Shiraha shrugged. Who made the rules? Have you asked me? Your rules can't restrict me, nor can they protect you. These nobles talk about rules all day long because they have no power themselves, and only rules can protect them. Uehara Shiraha was not hit by the will of fire and did not have the habit of raising a father. A nobleman needs to fabricate a false charge to kill someone. Uehara Shiraha does not need it. He just thought that the Tsuneshiro family might be plotting against him in secret. So he stepped on a member of the Tsuneshiro family to death. Like an ant, it's dead if it dies. Chapter 30 White Hits Upgrade. Inspecting the second squad. You really are. Shihoin Yoruchi had seen bold and reckless people before. After all, the secret mobile team of the 2nd Division was responsible for guarding the worm nest. She had seen all kinds of dangerous elements. But the person in front of her not only acted without scruples, but also had strong action capabilities. Outlaws were nothing. They could just be arrested and locked up until death. What should be done with lawless and incurable lunatics like this? Shihoin Yoruchi had no other choice but to frown and say, "Then why did you deliberately leave the Shin Army logo?" Because of this logo, everyone now thinks that this matter has something to do with our Shihoin family. Originally, Tsuneshiro Kamagawa would have died, but the other party died at the wrong time. After all, these days, the Tsuneshiro family has been making small moves against the Shihoin family. Then, someone from the Tsuneshiro family died, and the Shin Army logo was left at the scene. And the Shihoin family and the Shin Army are also bound together. Shihoin Yoruchi really didn't want his family to be blamed for no reason. I want them to think so. Otherwise, why would I leave this Shinjuin logo? Is it because I have nothing better to do? Uehara Shiraha looked like he had a good idea. If it has nothing to do with you, it won't have any deterrent effect. Besides, this matter has something to do with you. You produced the magic weapon, and I killed the person. Uehara Shiraha is a typical person who only cares about killing and not burying. If he wants to kill, he kills. If he wants to do it, he does it. Even if the nobles are in chaos, it has nothing to do with him. Uehara Shiraha hopes that all of them will die so that he can branch house property. Besides, the one who killed people is Tsutsuki Naruto. What does it have to do with him, Uehara Shiraha? You. Shihoin Yoruchi almost vomited blood. If you say it has something to do with it, then it definitely doesn't matter. Shihoin Yoruchi really didn't think of killing anyone. If you say it doesn't matter, then someone has to believe it. After all, Tsutsuki Naruto had no grudges against the Tsuneshiro family. So why did he kill people? It was for the Shihoin family. Even though she knew that this was not the case, she could not explain it clearly, just like she had no choice but to defect. Shihoin Yoruchi had a headache. Every time she came into contact with this Tsutsuki Naruto, she would deviate from the original plan and her thoughts would slip. However, she had no other choice. Seeing Shihoin Yoruchi's frowning face, Uehara Shiraha comforted him. If I say that I just did it casually and let it develop, and I didn't mean to target the Shihoin family, I just wanted Ichiraku, would you feel better about this? How is that possible? BD, stand still and let me hit you. It would be fine if she didn't comfort him, but once she comforted him, Shihoin Yoruchi would explode directly. She punched out and then was stunned. Hit. This guy didn't use that weird ability. However, Shihoin Ruchi did not think much and used the white hits techniques of penetration and collapse in succession. Specifically, the Ryatsu was concentrated at one point to directly penetrate the Shinigami's Ryatsu defense. As a result, after each hit, the opponent's figure would disappear and then reappear, and then this guy would become a little more difficult to deal with. Shihoin Yuruchi also gradually became serious. On the one hand, to vent his emotions. On the other hand, to collect information, Shihoin Yuruchi and the opponent started fighting. Half a day later, Uehara Shiraha looked at Shihoin Yuruchi, who was refreshed and re-energized, and invited him. Don't you want to soak in a hot spring before you leave? Let's go together, I don't mind. No thanks. Shihoin Yuruchi waved his hand, his figure flashed, and the whole person disappeared immediately. Shihoin Yuruchi, you are really excellent as a tool man. In the hot spring, Uehara Shiraha looked at the vice-captain level white hits on the panel, and his mouth slightly raised. This battle not only successfully upgraded the white hits of the senior officer level, but also learned very useful white hit skills, and by the way, improved the relationship with Yuruchi, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Thinking of tomorrow, I can also play with a small sway phone in the name of monitoring the secret mobile team. Uehara Shiraha felt that life was really beautiful, and even this base seemed to have become a lot more open. And all this can be said to be exchanged for the lives of Tsunaya and Kamagawa. Arigato, Tsunaya replaced Kamagawa. Waking up early the next morning, Uehara Shiraha looked at today's daily tasks as usual. Plant a tree, daily task. Today is Arbor Day. Please plant a tree. Everyone has the responsibility to protect the environment. Reward. Random attribute points to Uehara Shiraha did not fool around and planted a loquat tree in the direction of the captain's office. I hope that the tree will still be there during the 1,000-year bloody battle. After patting the soil on his hands, Uehara Shiraha received a system prompt. Ding! Congratulations on completing the daily task plant a tree. And get reward shadow clone +1. Sun breathing +1. Not bad. Uehara Shiraha nodded with satisfaction. The higher the proficiency of the ability and the stronger the Ryatsu, the harder it is to improve. Although 2 attribute point a day are not much, each time is a real improvement. This rhythm of slowly becoming invincible and gaining real growth every day, Uehara Shiraha is very satisfied. In the second squad dormitory, Uehara Shiraha met Suefeng, who had a delicate face but was as cold as ice. For Suefeng, these days are simply hell. First, she was abandoned by Yuruchi, and she vowed to surpass Shihoin Yuruchi and make him regret it. As a result, the secret mobile team made mistakes one after another just a few days after she took over, and even weakened her authority. This made her very embarrassed and very angry. However, what was even worse was that the guy who came to inspect today was Uehara Shiraha. It would be strange if Suefeng could treat him well. Captain Suefeng, please accept my condolences, Uehara Shiraha said gently. Question mark. Suefeng said coldly. What do you mean? No one died in the family. Why do you look so bad? Uehara Shiraha said in a matter-of-fact tone. Suefeng stared at Uehara Shiraha, and for a moment he didn't know whether to turn his face directly or admire the other party's courage. She gritted her teeth and said, If I hadn't been busy these days, would you have survived until now? If you dare to attack Xing again next time, you will definitely not be able to escape sanctions. Until now, Suefeng didn't know why the captain valued this kid so much. Isn't it just that he is younger, more talented, more powerful Zampicut, and more handsome? Well, you are right. Uehara Shiraha nodded. Then tell me about Xing current situation, and I will see how to continue to escape sanctions. You. Suefeng clenched his silver teeth and clenched his fists, but soon released them, and dutifully introduced the current situation of the secret mobile team. Chapter 31. The 2nd Division establishes its authority. The fall of the Xing army, the entire secret mobile team, is divided into 5 teams. The first team is a combat unit, also known as the Shing Army. Each member is an elite. Grandmaster lurks, assassinates, and investigates information. Sometimes he will appear on the front line of the battlefield and fight with the Hollow. Traditionally, the commander of the secret mobile team is also the commander of the Shing Army, just like Yamamoto Shigekuni is the captain of the first team at the same time. The division of power in the secret mobile team is very complicated. Just like a joint stock company, Godiai, 13, and the nobles are shareholders. The Shihuin family is the largest shareholder. Now with Suifeng taking over the second team and the Shing Army, Godiai 13 is equivalent to inheriting the shares of the Shihuin family, and the control over the secret mobile team has been greatly enhanced. Therefore, Uehara Shiraha's identity as an inspector is still very important. The second division of the secret mobile team is the police patrol team, responsible for patrolling Siriidii, monitoring, and even arresting Godiai, 13 Shinigami. The third division is the supervisory unit, responsible for guarding the prisoners in the Worm's Nest. Uehara Kisuk, the former captain of the 12th Division, is the captain of the 3rd Division. During his tenure, Uehara Kisuk also released Kuratsuchi Mayuri from the Worm's Nest and made her the deputy director of the Technology Development Bureau. The 5th Division is the writing team, which is responsible for delivering the first-level prohibition order and the news reported jointly by 2 or more captains. The speed and accuracy are far superior to the Hell Butterfly. The 4th Division has a complex structure and belongs to the private armed forces of the nobles, mostly death warriors, hired killers, retired Xingjuan, etc. In short, regardless of other divisions, the Xingjuan is the key with the strongest combat effectiveness and the highest authority. After listening to Suifeng's introduction, Uehara Shiraha nodded and said calmly, "Then call up the Shing Army. They have been taken care of these days. It's time to repay them." The secret mobile team is a bit similar to the Jinyui and the Military Intelligence Department in the previous life. They hold many secrets, and their authority is higher than that of other squads. So before, the Shing Army even dared to secretly follow him, the 7th seed of the first squad. If it weren't for the orders of the 46th Chamber and Yamamoto Genrisai, Suifeng would never bow to him. Although Suifeng did carry out the captain's orders to the letter, he only said some cliches. Suifeng didn't mention the real key point at all. However, Uehara Shiraha didn't care. Suifeng finally summoned the elite of the Shing Army unwillingly. Half a day later, on the training ground, Uehara Shiraha looked at a team of elite Shing Army soldiers lying on the ground, wondering, that's it? The Shing Army, which is known as the street cleaning tiger of Siriidii and frightens many Shinigami, is at this level? Who gave you the courage to follow me before? After saying that, he glanced at Suifeng intentionally or unintentionally. Suifeng clenched her fists. A few days ago, she threatened the other party with the Shing Army. Now, she was riding on the face and outputting at the Shing Army headquarters, and Suifeng felt deeply humiliated. At this moment, even Lord Yoruchi's bloody betrayal did not seem so painful to her. But despite this, she could not attack Uehara Shiraha, because it was disrespectful to the captain-in-chief in the 46th room. At the same time, several elite Shing Army soldiers on the ground who were originally unwilling to accept it also lowered their heads helplessly. The situation is stronger than people. There is no way. Besides, in a place like Xingjuan, the winner is the king and the strong is respected. All of them are not as good as a finger of others, so what is there to be dissatisfied about? Yes, it seems that you can still be saved, unlike your captain. Seeing that these Xingjuan are so appreciative, Uehara Shiraha stopped talking. Captain Suifeng, don't be stunned. Don't you see that your team members are injured? Call the 4th team over quickly. As leaders, we need to be sympathetic to our subordinates. Captain Suifeng, you should be more careful. Suifeng has never wanted to hit someone so much as now. Hard. Fists are hard. She accidentally reached a sympathy with Shihuin Yoruchi. Both of them prepared a small notebook for Uehara Shiraha, which recorded a lot of black accounts. Sooner or later, they will get back their principal and interest. In the 1st Squadron's dormitory, Uehara Shiraha was reporting his opinion of the 2nd Squadron to the motionless old man Yamamoto. I think this Shing army is really good. They are all talented and speak well. Sui Feng, who was expressionless, showed a puzzled look. Didn't you defeat the elite of the first squadron? Isn't it interesting to say this? Is this Uehara Shiraha showing off his own strength? Considering this guy's age, his talent and strength are indeed amazing. Sui Feng was secretly shocked by this. She just didn't want to show it. Yamamoto Jinrisai paused his cane. Speak to the point. He is old and can't keep up with the thinking of young people. However, when he was young, he seemed to be unable to keep up with the thinking of this kid. Noticing the old man's look, Uehara Shiraha didn't dare to neglect it and said quickly, "In fact, I think these talents should not be wasted. It just so happens that Suriidii is short of manpower. I suggest that the elite of the Shing army be drawn to form an elite force to serve as the vanguard of the expedition to Hueco Mundo. There are also some good Shinigami in the Shing army. Of course, there are also some minions and spies of the nobles." When Uehara Shiraha was inspecting the second squad, there were a few guys who looked down on him, a Shinigami from Rukongai. After all, he was not a demon, and it was impossible for him to kill those people on the spot. Then why not make use of the waste and send them to Hueco Mundo? Are you a demon? Can those people survive in Hueco Mundo? Sui Feng was so angry that she already had some understanding of Uehara Shiraha's style of doing things. At that time, she was wondering why the other party did not react to those arrogant Shinigami from noble families. It turned out that they were planning to catch them all in one fell swoop. This guy really doesn't want to take revenge overnight, and he has no sense of honor and mission of Shinigami. Sui Feng opened her mouth to say something, but found that she had no reason to stop. And if these people died, it seemed that she would be easier to control the Shing army. Then it settled. You two and Kaiaraka draw up a list. Yamamoto Jinrisai did not object. For the stability of Seoul society, Yamamoto Jinrisai can ignore some corrupt nobles. However, a group of second-team termites are gone. After all, it has nothing to do with the overall situation. Chapter 32. Asashi's Uehara teacher at noon the next day, Uehara Shiraha came to the cafeteria of the 8th Division. Most of the Shinigami gathered here were ordinary soldiers. The Shinigami gathered in 2s and 3s, eating and chatting, looking very happy. The atmosphere here is pretty good. Unlike the Hollows of Hueco Mundo, before being promoted to Wahalos, they must constantly devour their own kind and evolve desperately. Otherwise, they may degenerate into beasts without wisdom. After being promoted to Wa-level Minos Grande, because Ryatsu is too strong, ordinary hollows cannot get close, and loneliness is their only friend. As for the Quincy, with Yawatch, the lone Shar King who wants money more than life, around, how good can life be? Each one is under great pressure, so during the 1,000-year blood war, the mental state of each Quincy was not very good. Of course, Uehara Shiraha would not come to the squadron cafeteria to eat on ordinary days. Although the food here is free and unlimited, the taste is average. Today, he came here specifically to accompany Ayase Nanao. The main reason is that he values Ayase Nanao, the little red hand, very much, so he needs to deepen the relationship. Uehara Shiraha sat down in the envious and surprised eyes of the team members. Ayase Nanao had already prepared food for him and then sat down next to him. Sit opposite such a big girl. You should have a sense of distance. At this moment, Uehara Shiraha turned into a Sigma man. It's not that he is afraid of Bankai Kaiten Kaikatsu Kurumatsu heart or something, but he just doesn't want to affect the pure teacher-student relationship between the two. Even if it affects, it can't be done secretly in public. Ayase Nanao blushed, and then he reacted and quickly got up and sat opposite Uehara Shiraha. Looking at this somewhat cute Ayase Nanao, Uehara Shiraha shook his head. Compared with the serious and strong vice-captain of the 8th Division, this little Nanao is indeed not very mature, but a lot cuter. Then, with a smile on her face, Ayase Nanao peeled the tender and fragrant shrimp meat for Uehara Shiraha and picked out the fish bones from the fish meat. If Kairaku Shunsui saw this scene, he would definitely be jealous to the point of red eyes. His uncle has never enjoyed such treatment, and he probably will never have this opportunity to enjoy it. Not to mention, the other Shinigami of 8th Division, a pair of red Sharingan, are about to evolve into Mangeki. The men are jealous of Uehara Shiraha, and the women are jealous of Ayase Nanao, and they really feel the pain of the world. This meal was more comfortable and delicious than Uehara Shiraha expected. In the morning, he first discussed the matter of Xingjun with Kayaraka Shunsui. Kayaraka Shunsui is also a ruthless person. He waved his hand and put all those guys who were eating and waiting to die and looking down on others on the list. With this group of people as cannon fodder, Godiai 13's losses were reduced invisibly. Therefore, both the old man and Kayaraka Shunsui thought that Uehara Shiraha's proposal was really good. Even Suifeng did not object to this proposal. The list was quickly passed, and these people were already part of the Hueco Mundo Expeditionary Force. Uehara Shiraha hoped that these people would be able to show the nobles bearing and honor at that time, and die obediently. Ayase Nanao obviously heard something and asked, "Mr. Uehara, the war is about to start, right? Why do you want to participate? Aren't you afraid?" Uehara Shiraha knew that Kayaraka Shunsui did not want Ayase Nanao to take risks. In Shinigami Bleach, Kayaraka Shunsui protected Ayase Nanao too well because Yamamaru Lisa suffered from vice captain PTSD. As a result, Ayase Nanao had no experience in serious combat, and in the end, he did not overcome his fear of swords and could not and did not dare to use swords. "I'm scared," Ayase Nanao nodded first, then said firmly, "But I want to participate because I am the Shinigami of the 8th Division, but Captain Kayaraku." She wanted to prove herself, but she didn't want to worry her uncle. "If your kid level can reach the vice captain level, I can consider asking for you." Uehara Shiraha felt that Ayase Nanao was still worth cultivating. It's not easy to find a little apprentice who is loyal, capable, and can complete tasks. And only when her strength is strong can the power of the 8 mirror sword be brought into play. The most important thing is that Uehara Shiraha is confident that he can protect Ayase Nanao. In this case, it is better to stimulate Ayase Nanao and complete the special task in front of him as soon as possible. Anyway, it's just asking for favors. Whether it will succeed or not is another matter. Ayase Nanao said excitedly, "Really? Thank you, Mr. Uehara. I will work harder." These are not conditions. After all, becoming stronger is her wish. In Ayase Nanao's view, Mr. Uehara is just helping her in different ways, which is really too stupid. After finishing the meal, while there was still time, Uehara Shiraha and Ayase Nanao came to the training ground again. While Ayase Nanao was working hard to practice Kid, Uehara Shiraha was also integrating his own power system. Just like there is no rubbish stand, there are only rubbish stand users, except for the Purple Hermit. So from time to time, Uehara Shiraha still has to familiarize himself with the combination of abilities and various applications in actual combat. From time to time, a sparring NPC will be refreshed at the secret base. At that time, the combination of theory and practice will be mastered quickly. At this time, Uehara Shiraha is familiarizing himself with the white hits and Shuinpa that have been promoted. The previous Xingjun was not good at all. He fell down before he exerted his strength. So Uehara Shiraha had no chance to try the advanced white hit skills that he stole from Yoruchi. In addition, these days, he concentrated on teaching Kid to Ayase Nanao, which to some extent also strengthened his own Kid strength. Now, Uehara Shiraha has a deeper understanding of the 3 basic Shinigami skills: white hits, Shunpa, and Kid. The next step should be to combine one's own abilities and develop a unique trick. Similar to Byakuya Kichiki's Shunwa, Shihoin Uruchi's Kushin, Shunkin. As for the slashing technique, Uehara Shiraha glanced at the sun breathing on the system panel. The sword type that can kill demons must be very cool to cut hollows. After all, every blade is blazing. Unohana Yichiryu, you who claim to master all the kendo styles in the world, have you ever seen this reincarnation sword type? Chapter 33. Special mission completed. Universal barrier in the next few days. Uehara Shiraha's schedule was very fixed. During the day, he took time to guide Ayase Nanao in kid training, and at the same time developed his own unique moves. At night, he went to the flower street to relax. When he was free, he would go to see if Shihoin Yoruchi had refreshed. If he did, he would brush up his experience. Shihoin Yoruchi was also very cooperative, and after a while, he even got used to it. In addition, when Uehara Shiraha was free, he had to infuse a lot of Ryatsu into the death gloves to integrate the magic weapon provided by Shihoin Yoruchi. After all, it was just a D-level item, and if he wanted to grow, he still needed to invest a lot of resources and energy. Uehara Shiraha did not rush for success, and just regarded this as a special Ryatsu training. Anyway, it was good to have multiple trump cards. If it didn't work, he had many means, and it didn't matter if this item was too much. In a blink of an eye, more than 10 days passed. On this day, Uehara Shiraha stood in front of Ayase Nanao again and asked him to release the strongest kid. They had to do this kind of training several times a day. Every time, Uehara Shiraha could point out the opponent's shortcomings. As before, Nanao used her best skill, which was the had 58 Tianlan that broke the chant. This was also specially requested by Uehara Shiraha. Ayase Nanao could not use Zampiket. It was difficult to gain chant time, and there was no means to quickly defend in close combat. Therefore, the broken chant was necessary, and it was necessary to take the initiative. This time, the moment Ayase Nanao released Kid, Uehara Shiraha showed a look of relief. Unlike the beginning, the spirit particles in this hurricane have become more condensed, more destructive, and faster. This is the kid that is truly valuable in actual combat. At this time, Ayase Nanao's Ryatsu is finally not light and fluttering, but has its own weight. Of course, this amount is insignificant to Uehara Shiraha. Facing the hurricane, Uehara Shiraha stretched out a finger. Breaking point. This is an advanced white hits technique that can inject the power of Kid into the enemy's body. It can also destroy the formed Kid. Under one finger, the terrifying Ryatsu burst out instantly, and the hurricane immediately collapsed and dissipated. It's like this again. Ayase Nanao looked a little depressed. Teacher Uehara, I'm sorry, This time she felt better than ever. It was like in an instant, she understood the spirit that Uehara Shiraha had been emphasizing. But I didn't expect it to be so weak, which made Ayase Nanao couldn't help but start to doubt her kid talent. No, you did very well. I felt your determination and belief in your kid. Uehara Shiraha showed a smile from the heart. You have become stronger, Nanao. Your kid level has reached the level of vice captain. For Ayase Nanao's kid talent, Uehara Shiraha has always been optimistic. Being able to reach the level of a vice captain so quickly, this kind of kid talent is stronger than that of an ordinary captain. She is worthy of being the eldest daughter of a Shinto family. Ayase Nanao was surprised and excited. Until now, she still couldn't believe that her kid level had improved so much in such a short period of time. It was like a dream. Uehara Shiraha's expression was not too turbulent. He reminded her, stabilize Ryatsu first and remember the feeling now. Ayase Nanao took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. Then, she followed Uehara Shiraha's usual instructions and began to practice meticulously. Ayase Nanao wanted to engrave the feeling just now in her soul and blood. At this moment, Uehara Shiraha also received a system prompt. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the special mission. 8. Help the poor and the needy, help the girl, and reward S-level ability Universal Barrier. Universal Barrier level, S-level proficiency. Beginner type, Angel Power ability. A combination of several defensive barriers, which can provide all-round and multi-level protection for the host. It can be called Absolute Defense and can block attacks from space, spirit, time, and even cause an effect in concepts. Introduction. 1. The ultimate skill of the cute king slime, which is one of the powers of the king of Oath, Uriel. 2. Obtained after completing Special Mission 8 helping the poor and helping the girl. 3. Defending against everything is equal to defending against nothing. The moment he saw this ability, Uehara Shiraha felt relieved and became more secure. He smiled slightly. Now, there is really nothing to be afraid of. Although this ability was ridiculed in the cute King Slime as an absolute defense that could not be defended, it was because the enemies of the cute king were too strong. Moreover, this power still has room for further development and can be reversed into absolute cutoff. Of course, what Uehara Shiraha values most is the comprehensive protection of Universal Barrier. In addition to the abundance of various old silver coins, the Shinigami world also has various bug-level abilities. Even if Uehara Shiraha has a horse charm that can expel abnormal states, it is still not stable, because some abilities are too unsolvable and disgusting. For example, Fullbringer Tsukishima's Book of the End can rewrite other people's consciousness and even affect the timeline to a certain extent. Yawatch's Omniscience can foresee the future and launch attack from the future to fundamentally erase something. The damage caused by omniscience, changing the future, cannot be repaired even by the god-level Nanny in Noe Oraheim, and the military leader Ichibai also has some very tricky abilities. For example, Kill the Name but not the meat, and Zampakit, which changes the name of everything and erases its power, and the clairvoyance that seems to be able to see the mental space of others. These abilities are very difficult to deal with, and Uehara Shiraha feels a headache just thinking about it. But with Universal Barrier, it's different. Even if the absolute defense of Universal Barrier cannot completely resist Soul King Ha's omniscience, it can at least play a defensive role. In addition, various mental voyeurism, mental locking, and even time and space abilities cannot be fully effective against Uehara Shiraha. At this stage, Uehara Shiraha doesn't have to worry too much, but when some of his strength is exposed, Universal Barrier can protect his secrets to the greatest extent. And this is still the entry-level Universal Barrier. When he becomes proficient, coupled with Splitting Void, Uehara Shiraha will be invincible. Therefore, Uehara Shiraha is very satisfied with this reward. This Universal Barrier is considered a top-level ability among S-level abilities. Ayase Nanao does have the potential to become a Little Red Hand. Chapter 34. Shinigami are also gods. The secret power in the first squadron's quarters. Uehara Shiraha is testing the Universal Barrier he just got. It must be said that it is a powerful ability that is only a little short of reaching the SR level. Whether his kid white hits, slashing techniques, or even space abilities, they cannot penetrate the absolute defense of the Universal Barrier. At least the captain-level attacks are like this. The only problem is that the duration of the Universal Barrier at the entry level is too short. Now, Uehara Shiraha feels that his Shadow Clone is becoming less and less useful, and there are too many abilities that need to be improved. Therefore, the more bug-level training plugins like Shadow Clone, the better. After all, the higher the proficiency, the stronger the ability. After reaching Grandmaster, not only will the power of the ability become stronger, but it will generally not miss the opportunity to use it, which is very important. When an ability reaches the Grandmaster level, it often undergoes a qualitative change, just like his Shadow Clone technique, which is a bit too slow to improve after Grandmaster. However, Shadow Clone technique is a must-use ability for Uehara Shiraha every day. I believe it is not far from reaching the perfection level. At that time, his speed of becoming stronger will become even more amazing. Next, Uehara Shiraha is going to take out 2 Shadow Clone to upgrade the level of Universal Barrier. Just like he spent a lot of time to upgrade White Album of Substitute. No matter how much time and energy he puts into S-level ability, it is not too much. In the room, Uehara Shiraha continues to try to analyze the various characteristics of Universal Barrier. After all, it is a power-type ability. Just like a talent or blessing, it naturally carries some mysterious information. Through this information, Uehara Shiraha understands that the power of Universal Barrier is not only related to proficiency, but also to power or faith. Fortunately, Uehara Shiraha is not a mortal now, but a Shinigami. Although the Shinigami in the Shinigami world are more like melee mages, they do contain divine power, that is, the power of Shinigami from the Soul King. And the complete Soul King is definitely the combat ceiling of Shinigami, without a doubt, a creator godlike existence. Therefore, the power of Shinigami is also very particular. It's just that the Zero Division holds too much power, so ordinary Shinigami perform relatively poorly. For example, Ichibai Haisub has mastered the power of Name, which is the embodiment of power. In other words, the upper limit of Shinigami is very high. After all, the source is the Soul King. However, ordinary Shinigami can't touch this level at all, unless they obtain the Soul King Ryatsu and become the King Ki. Uehara Shiraha is thinking that he must perform well on this trip to Hueco Mundo. To a certain extent, purifying the hollow is also one of the duties of Shinigami. In this way, he can enhance the power of Shinigami and in turn increase the strength of Universal Barrier. Combined with the power of Shinigami, this ability has a lot of room for development. Uehara Shiraha already has a lot of ideas about this. However, he also knows that he can't eat a fat man in one bite, so he can only take it slowly. After all, the development of S-level abilities like Shinigami Bankai generally takes 100 or several hundred years to develop a real trick. While Uehara Shiraha was concentrating on comprehending the Universal Barrier, Ayase Nanao was showing Kairaku Shunsui his kid strength. Seeing Ayase Nanao's kid easily destroy the target used by senior officers on the training ground, Kairaku Shunsui's pupil shrank. Then, Kairaku Shunsui's face was full of surprise. With such strength, Ayase Nanao can be regarded as having the initial ability to protect himself. This way he can be much more at ease. In his heart, Kairaku Shunsui was already thinking about how to thank Uehara Shiraha, whether to book all the oirins or take out the fine wines that he had treasured for a long time and drink them together. Or how about both? While Kairaku Shunsui was happy, Ayase Nanao made a request. Captain, can I participate in the Hueco Mundo operation this time? I want to protect Siriidii with teacher Uehara. Oh, let's talk about this later. Kairaku Shunsui laughed. Then he ignored Ayase Nanao's pleading eyes and ran to the first team's barracks to find Uehara Shiraha to celebrate. If not, next he had to start various strategic deployments for the Hueco Mundo expedition, and the two of them would probably have been having fun every day and every night for a long time. While the Hueco Mundo expedition had not yet begun, Uehara Shiraha made various attempts. In the end, he determined that only practical actions, such as killing hollows and burying souls, could increase Shinigami power. Some superficial efforts are not enough, and it is difficult to take advantage of such idealistic power. However, the efforts of these days are not without effect. The current Universal Barrier is already in the skilled state and can last for about 1 minute. However, it doesn't matter even if the time is up. Just add another one. It's just that the consumption of S-level ability is very large. As the strength increases, Uehara Shiraha finds that his Ryatsu is not enough. Shinigami really has a limit. Even the captain-level Ryatsu can't support such a powerful ability as the Universal Barrier. At least the second class, or even the first class spiritual power can barely be enough. Fortunately, there are daily tasks that can make him grow steadily, so there's no need to rush. Just when Uehara Shiraha was enjoying life and growing steadily, the pre-war preparation for the Hueco Mundo expedition were finally over. War is fought on logistics. Even if only a few hundred elite Shinigami are qualified to go to Hueco Mundo in the end, the manpower, material resources, and various resources that need to be mobilized in the process are also indispensable. After all, Shinigami, a spiritual life, also needs to eat and drink. Otherwise, the power of Shinigami will recover very slowly, and if the environment is a little worse, they may even starve to death. Soon, all the senior Shinigami of Siriidii were summoned. Here, Uehara Shiraha saw many familiar faces. After all, those who can appear here are at least elite Shinigami, and the big figures who are rarely seen in normal times are basically all here. Even Shur Yukitake, the arrogant captain of the 13th Division, rarely took sick leave. At this time, the gentle Shiryukitake was standing at the front of the crowd with Captain Yamamoto and Kayaraku Shunsui. Kayaraku Shunsui also winked at Uehara Shiraha in the crowd. Even in an occasion like today, Kayaraku Shunsui still wore a bamboo hat and a flashy red and pink haori, and his expression was very frivolous. Yamamoto Genrosai, who was at the front of the crowd, twitched his lips slightly, then slammed his cane and said, "I am giving orders as the captain of Godiai 13. The captains and vice captains of the 2nd, 8th, and 11th divisions and other elite Shinigami are selected to form the Hueco Mundo Advance Force. The 12th Division and the Technology Development Bureau are responsible for technical support and logistic supply. The 4th Division is responsible for treating the wounded. The 5th Division is responsible for emergency rescue. For this operation, Kayaraku Shunsui, the captain of the 8th Division, will serve as the general leader of the expeditionary force and be responsible for coordinating the overall situation. Uehara Shiraha, the 7th seat of the 1st Division, will serve as the deputy leader and be responsible for assisting the general leader in handling the affairs of the expeditionary force. Everyone was mentally prepared for the previous orders. But the last order, except for the few people who knew about it in advance, the other captains and vice captains were all shocked. How can a mere 7th seat take on such a big task? Chapter 35. The Hueco Mundo expedition begins. The captains and vice captains present were not unfamiliar with the name Uehara Shiraha. After all, Uehara Shiraha's style of doing things and his appearance and temperament were really outstanding. Such a person, even if he was not strong, could still be a little famous. What's more, Uehara Shiraha was a genius. But which of the captains and vice captains present was not a genius? Even if he was a genius, how strong could a 7th seat who had been a Shinigami for less than 20 years be? Is such a guy really qualified to take on such an important task? But even if they had doubts in their hearts, these captains and vice captains could only keep them in their hearts. After all, they could not openly question the order of Captain Yamamoto in such an occasion. At this time, Kayaraku Shunsui waved to Uehara Shiraha. Uehara Shiraha did not hesitate, and a Shuinpa came to Kayaraku Shuinsui's side. He stood in front of a group of captains and elite Shinigami with a leisurely look on his face. He did not take the questioning eyes of these Shinigami to heart at all. Looking at Uehara Shiraha, who looked relaxed and elegant, the 2 madmen of the 11th Division and the captain of the 2nd Division, Sui Feng, all changed their expressions as if they remembered something bad. The warm eyes of the captain of the 5th Division, Aizen, flashed a sharp light and then disappeared. The captain of the 11th Division, Zaraki Kenpachi, showed a bloodthirsty smile, and under the murderous intent, no other Shinigami dared to approach within 100 meters. At this time, Kayaraku Shunsui, the general leader of the Hueco Mundo Expeditionary Force, stepped forward and read out the long-standing pre-war oath. "We will go to the place of the decisive battle now. Believe it, our blades will never break. Believe it, our hearts will never give up. Even if we can't go to the battlefield together, the iron will be with us. Swear, even if the earth cracks, we will come back here alive again." Teams of Shinigami were excited and eager to fight. Beside him, Yamamoto Genrosai's eyes were finally not closed, but half opened. When his eyes were slightly open, the old man revealed a little bit of momentum. Instantly, the heavy Ryatsu like a mountain filled the whole place, and it even brought a burning feeling. The officers at the scene felt dry mouth and weak body. The captain's eyes were shining, and their faces were full of respect. "Everyone, good luck in martial arts. Let's go." Captain Yamamoto's simple words boosted the morale of all Shinigami and made them feel extremely relieved. The Hueco Mundo expedition officially began. Without waiting for Kayaraku Shunsui to give orders, Zaraki Kenpachi smiled arrogantly. "The prey inside is all mine. Whoever dares to steal it, I will chop him." After that, he carried Zampicut and stepped into the Hueco Mundo gate first. Soon, a group of Shinigami from the 11th Division, who looked hideous and not good people at first glance, also rushed into the gate. There's really nothing we can do about him. Kayarako, Shunsui walked toward the Hueco Mundo gate helplessly. Ayase Nanao, holding a book, was about to follow when she was pulled back by Uehara Shiraha. As the other Shinigami of the expeditionary force walked into the Hueco Mundo gate one by one, Uehara Shiraha chatted with Sure Yukitake as if nothing had happened. I didn't expect Captain Jushiro to attend this ceremony. Is he all right? I'm fine, cough, cough. I certainly won't be absent on such an important day. Cough, cough. Sure Yukitake perfectly illustrates what it means to be physically disabled but mentally strong. Facing the strange looks of other Shinigami, Ayase Nanao was obviously not used to it and shrank back. Uehara Shiraha seemed to be unaware and even wanted to talk to the old man who was meditating with his eyes closed, but unfortunately the latter ignored him. After everyone walked into the gate, Uehara Shiraha said to Ayase Nanao, "Very good. We have successfully completed the mission of covering the rear. Let's go." Ayase Nanao looked at the silent captain, and then looked at the many captains and felt that they didn't need to cover the rear. When passing by Kuratsuchi Mayuri wearing a black and white mask, Uehara Shiraha commented, "This gate is good. It's quite strong, better than Uehara Kisuke's. Are you looking for trouble?" Kuratsuchi Mayuri gritted her teeth and resisted the urge to bankai. This gate was actually made using the World Strike device left by Uehara Kisuke. Kuratsuchi Mayuri was only responsible for the installation. Uehara Shiraha's praise was too heartbreaking for Kuratsuchi Mayuri, who wanted to surpass Uehara Kisuke technically. Uehara Shiraha and Ayase Nanao walked into the gate one after the other. What came into view was a dark passage that seemed to extend infinitely forward. Uehara Shiraha knew that this was the Dengai. Hueco Mundo, the present world, and Soul Society were all floating in the endless Black Cavity. Black Cavity is the chaotic land outside the world, similar to the vacuum zone between planets. Denkai is the channel connecting these worlds, just like the barrier isolating Black Chamber. Therefore, whether it is Shinigamis crossing World Gate or Hollow and Aaroncar's Black Chamber, they're essentially crossing Denkai to other worlds. In principle, they're the same, but one combines technical strength and is very stable. The other is the manifestation of innate ability, which is relatively rough and difficult to sustain. In the future, Uehara Shiraha will definitely develop his own cross-world crossing method. If it doesn't work, he can still take advantage of Uehara A-Dream. At the beginning of the plot, Uehara Kisuke has developed a portal with the function of soul particle conversion. While thinking, Uehara Shiraha strode forward, and several red hell butterflies flew in front to lead the way. Ayase Nanao followed behind for a while, and felt as if she had come to the world's exile place. Being here, she felt that the boundaries of time and space became blurred, and her heart suddenly felt a little uneasy. But when she saw the figure in front of her, Nanao Ayase suddenly calmed down and began to concentrate on her journey. The two of them hurried along, and soon the view in front of them was clear. Uehara Shiraha took a step and came to a desolate desert. In front of her was the vast desert, in addition to the Shinigami expeditionary force that arrived in advance. Above the sky, a crescent moon hung on the horizon, casting a cold and quiet light. In the night, the surrounding Shinigami exuded a solemn atmosphere, which matched the scenery here. Behind her, Nanao Ayase's shocked voice came. "So Hueco Mundo is like this. It's really so desolate." She had only read the description of Hueco Mundo in the guidance book of the Shin Spiritual Academy. Thinking of the various terrible rumors about Hueco Mundo, Nanao Ayase became uneasy again. Uehara Shiraha looked up at the crescent moon in the sky and suddenly became interested. "Such a large canvas has inspired me to create something. This time I will paint with blood and fire." Chapter 36, Special Mission. Searching for the forest of Minos Grande, the Shinigami nearby all looked skeptical when they heard Uehara Shiraha's words. Although this deputy leader is quite famous, he doesn't look like a particularly strong person. After all, The momentum of this 7th seat is far inferior to that of Captain Zaraki and the Shinigami of the 11th Division. Is this bragging? The soldiers of the 11th Division also have similar doubts. This group of hot-tempered and powerful ruffians didn't bother to hide their thoughts and shouted directly. That pretty boy doesn't have any ability at first glance. Captain Zaraki should be the deputy leader. Deputy leader? Captain Zaraki should be the general leader. After all, he is Kenpachi. That's right, Captain Zaraki is the strongest. Hearing these people's undisguised contempt and ridicule for Uehara Shiraha, Madarame Ikaku said coldly, "Don't blame me for not reminding you. Don't say these words in front of that Uehara Shiraha. In the future, you should stay away from him as much as possible. I don't want to fish you out of the river." He still remembers the last fiasco. If Uehara Shiraha is incompetent, then what is he? Madarame Ikaku? A baby? Ayasegawa Yumachika, next to him, also warned, "It's not beautiful to talk bad about people behind their backs. The 11th Division doesn't need such a member." At this moment, Zaraki Kenpachi has rushed to a very far distance. And behind the 11th Division are rows of temporary camps firmly protected by barriers. At the temporary headquarters of the Hueco Mundo Expeditionary Force, Uehara Shiraha walked in with Ayase Nanao. "In fact, it's not a bad idea for you to stay in Siriidii." Kairaku Shunsui still hopes that his niece can stay in Siriidii. Uehara Shiraha raised his eyebrows. "Now it sounds good, but when the captain roasted me on the fire, you laughed the most happily." The old man's arrangement this time really caught him off guard. You know, today's Godii 13 is indeed much kinder than the all-villains of the first generation. But no matter what, it can't change the fact that Godii 13 is a military armed group. Here, if you don't deserve your position, you will really be stabbed. Just look at how Onawa Castle died. If Uehara Shiraha is not strong enough, the deputy leader will become a rope around his neck. "Even I was shocked by your appointment this time," Kairaka Shunsui said in an unreserved tone. "Old man Sean really thinks highly of you. Maybe in the future, I will have to act according to your mood, brother by you. In the expeditionary army, no one can order Uehara Shiraha except him, the general leader. If that time comes, you will suffer." Uehara Shiraha made a wave of harsh words. Then he looked at the surrounding barriers and analyzed. Hueco Mundo's spirit particle concentration is indeed much higher than Soul Society. Here, our strength and the defense of the barrier have also been improved. But this is the home ground of the Hollow after all. Have you thought about what to do, General Leader? The original Uehara Shiraha would not be so active even if he served as the deputy leader. However, in order to enhance the power of Shinigami and strengthen the power of the Universal Barrier, it is not a bad idea to be a little more proactive. Kairaku Shunsui said seriously, "The Vanguard investigation team of the secret mobile team has been dispatched, and we just need to follow the procedures. When fighting away from home in an unfamiliar environment, the best strategy is to play steadily." This is the tactic the two had discussed before. Uehara Shiraha sneered at all those tactics of winning by surprise and defeating the strong with the weak, and said that the right way is to crush them. Kairaku Shunsui also agreed with this. "Excuse me, goodbye. The question just now has exhausted Uehara Shiraha's little work enthusiasm." Before Kairaku Shunsui could react, Uehara Shiraha left. Ayase Nanao had been recording the conversation between the two. Seeing Uehara Shiraha leave, she also hurriedly put down her pen, closed her book, and saluted Kairaku Shunsui. "Captain, I'm leaving first. Teacher Uehara, wait for me." Looking at the two people coming and going in a hurry, and looking at the thick documents on the table, Kairaku Shunsui instantly turned into a bitter face. "There's only endless work, no wine, and beautiful women. When will this day end?" In the Hueco Mundo desert, looking at the little apprentice running towards him in a hurry, Uehara Shiraha stretched out a finger and gently pointed forward, had for white thunder. In an instant, a white lightning directly brushed Ayase Nanao's body and flew straight through the stone pillar beside her. "Teacher Uehara, I'm sorry." Ayase Nanao was startled. Thinking that she had made Uehara Shiraha angry, she quickly apologized. At this moment, the stone pillar next to her instantly shattered and turned into a mosaic in which the white mask and the hollow hole could barely be seen. A chaotic, heavy, abnormal, and ominous Ryatsu disappeared in an instant. Ayase Nanao looked at the terrifying monster that quickly turned into spirit particles and disappeared, with a face full of fear and shock. This stone pillar turned out to be a hollow? She didn't notice it at all when she passed by. If it weren't for Uehara Shiraha's action, she would be in danger. In the future, you should also pay attention to things that don't move. If you see anything wrong, just blast it directly, don't hesitate. Just now, Uehara Shiraha deliberately kept the hollow to teach his students a lesson. This is what an excellent teacher should do. Yes, Uehara teacher. Uehara Shiraha's simple words made Ayase Nanao full of strength all over his body. The two of them wandered around Hueco Mundo. This is indeed not a good place. Although the concentration of spirit particles is very high, there's only night and no day, and there's a depressing atmosphere all around. However, Hueco Mundo is not a real barren land. In addition to some small hollows who know how to set traps and plot, there are also some small animals hidden in the cracks of rocks and sand. These small animals also have masks and hollow holes, and they are obviously hollows. They are the hollows at the bottom of Hueco Mundo. By devouring each other, they eventually grow into small hollows devouring their own kind. This is how hollows evolve. In addition, a small tree will occasionally appear abruptly in the Rhizo Desert. There are trees here. Looking at the small stone tree in front of him, Ayase Nanao was curious. This is not a tree, it's a branch. At this point, Uehara Shiraha's expression changed. He actually received a task prompt at this time. Find the forest of Minos Grande, Special Mission 9. After finally arriving in Hueco Mundo, the host decided to go to the forest of Minos Grande to see the Hueco Mundo specialty giant clown and taste the Hueco Mundo cuisine. Reward: random ability or props. Chapter 37. Minos Grande attacks. An 11th division isn't a tough fight. Uehara Shiraha had expected that coming to Hueco Mundo might lead to a special mission. After all, this is also an important part of the Shinigami world. But he didn't expect that this time he would indirectly trigger the mission through Ayase Nanao. Uehara Shiraha looked at Ayase Nanao with a subtle look. Could this literary girl really be Little Red Hand? But no matter what, having a special mission is a good thing and worth celebrating. Noticing Uehara Shiraha's look, Ayase Nanao asked in confusion, "Why do you say this is a branch?" Uehara Shiraha, who had just triggered a special mission, was in a good mood and patiently explained, Hueco Mundo is actually divided into two layers, the surface and the underground. The surface is the vast desert in front of us, filled with some small hollows. There is a vast underground space under the desert called the Minos Grande Forest. There are countless Minos Grande Jillions in the Minos Grande Forest, as well as patches of extremely tall stone trees. These underground trees continue to grow, and finally the crowns break through the sand layer on the ground, and their branches and leaves stretch out to form the stone branches in front of us. Minos Grande Forest. Mr. Uehara, is it the Minos Grande I know? Ayase Nanao's face turned pale. She had only seen illustrations of the terrifying monster Minos Grande in the textbooks of the Shinagawa Spiritual Academy. The book said that only captain level or royal spies could deal with this kind of monster. They're all old stuff from thousands of years ago, just like the captain, outdated. Uehara Shiraha shook his head. It is better to have no books than to believe in them blindly. You will know after you experience it yourself. It has been a long time since the textbooks of the Shin Spiritual Academy were changed. The book obviously exaggerates the strength of low-level Minos Grande, probably because they are afraid that these students will not take it seriously and then commit suicide. However, it is true that only Shinigami at the vice captain level can defeat Jillian. If the vice captain level Shinigami is counted as captain level, then this statement is not so outrageous. Experience it yourself? Ayase Nanao did not understand what Uehara Shiraha meant for a while. At this time, Kairaku Shunsui appeared silently beside the two of them and said in a low voice, "Just now the intelligence team sent a message that they were attacked by Minos Grande and requested support. It seems that someone does not welcome us. In that case, I will go and say hello to them." Uehara Shiraha shrugged and said calmly, No, let's go." Long before Kairaku Shunsui arrived, he sensed the abnormal Ryatsu that suddenly appeared in the distance. That kind of strength can only be Minos Grande Jillian. And it's not just one Minos Grande, but many Jillian. If Jillian without independent consciousness is not controlled by anyone, they will never gather and actively attack Shinigami. This means that someone is behind the scenes. But for Uehara Shiraha, no matter who is behind it, it doesn't matter. If someone else wants to take Ayase Nanao to take risks, Kairaku Shunsui will definitely not be at ease. No matter how strong the opponent is, it won't work, but Uehara Shiraha is an exception. Uehara Shiraha, a Shuinpo, walked in the direction of the abnormal Ryatsu. Ayase Nanao followed without hesitation. But the further she walked, the paler her face became, and her expression became more and more uneasy. Because the chaotic, heavy, and huge Ryatsu in the air was too terrifying. Ryatsu contained an undisguised greedy will, just like the insatiable desire of a hungry person for food. Just a slight contact with this cold and evil Ryatsu, Ayase Nanao couldn't help but feel the hair stand on end, and her body became very heavy. She remembered the horrible rumors about the hollows, the pain of being eaten alive, and becoming part of a monster after death. Either one is creepy. If you are afraid, you can go back. Feeling Ayase Nanao's heavy breathing and scattered Ryatsu behind him, Uehara Shiraha said without looking back, "At this time, it is useless to say nice words, and Ayase Nanao will eventually have to get through this level by himself. As for the War Man, he is not even a dog." Teacher Uehara. Ayase Nanao took a deep breath, and her eyes became firm. "I will always follow your footsteps, and I will not fall behind." Uehara Shiraha said casually, "I'm glad that you can overcome the fear in your heart, but next, I want you to face the fear in your heart. It is good to have courage, but it is not good to be too brave. In this world with deep water, if you don't have AC, you will die quickly." Before Ayase Nanao could say anything, Uehara Shiraha stopped and looked forward. Behind him, Ayase Nanao, who was panting, followed him. When he looked up, he was stunned. "Is this Minos Grande?" In the valley under the rolling sand dunes in front, a group of Shinigami from the 11th Division were fighting. Madarame Ikeku and Ayasegawa Yumachika, who had Shirkai Zanpakuto, were the most active. And the opponents they fought against were 3 giant monsters with a height of 100 meters and their bodies wrapped in black cloaks. The huge black hole in the chest and the clown-like long-nosed white mask on the face indicate that this hill-like monster is indeed a hollow. At this time, the 3 Minos Grande, together with hundreds of small hollows and giant hollows, cut the soldiers of the 11th Division into several battlefields. From time to time, Shinigami fell, but the others had no time to care and continued to fight desperately. Madarame Ikeku's combat power after Shirkai should not be underestimated. Although Zukimaru was a bit lame, Madarame Ikeku's combat literacy was very high. However, although he could deal with the giant hollow that was slightly stronger than the small hollow like cutting melons and vegetables, he still couldn't quickly resolve the battle against Minos Grande Jillian. He looked at the enemy in front of him with an anxious look, then looked into the distance and shouted, "Come on, Captain Zaraki has already killed their leader. I don't want to waste time with this bunch of trash, so fight hard. Whoever dares to drag his feet at this time, I will kill him first. I understand the truth, but why is this hollow so big? This mask is not beautiful at all, like a clown." Although Ayasegawa Yumachika also wanted to meet up with Captain Zaraki immediately, he still said calmly, "These monsters are really ugly, and their skin is so hard and recovers quickly. It's difficult for us to win a quick victory." He keenly noticed that Minos Grande Jillian's steel skin and high-speed regeneration ability were stronger than ordinary hollows. This made the battle situation more and more tense. As for the Noble Intelligence team that was attacked first, it had already been completely destroyed. However, their sacrifice was worth it. At least it bought time for the expeditionary force. Chapter 38. The Siege of Minos Grande. The terrifying Red Zero on the sand dunes. Uehara Shiraha looked at the 11th Squadron Shinigami, who were fighting with 3 Minos Grande with indifferent eyes. Then he said to Nanao beside him, "Go support them." He himself stood on the sand dunes without moving. "Yes, Mr. Uehara." Nanao came to the battlefield with a Shuinpa without any hesitation. Looking at Nanao, who came with a book, the bald Madarame Ikaku used Zukumaru to cut the toenails of Minos Grande fiercely and laughed. "Is this the support of the 8th Squad? A woman, who doesn't even have a knife, is holding a book. Do you want to read to annoy these hollows to death?" It's really funny. If Nanao had not been specially trained by Uehara Shiraha, she might have been shaken in this terrible battlefield and facing such a terrifying monster. But now, Nanao had no reaction to Madarame Ikaku's taunting and just used Ryatsu to quickly release Kid. Had 58 Tianlon. After releasing the first had, she released 2 more of the same had in a row without hesitation. The 3 winds of Tianlon gathered into a terrible hurricane, rolling up sand and some ordinary hollows to directly wrap Jillian's huge body. Although, this hurricane could only hit Jillian's calves. But the superposition of 3 Tianlon gave this hurricane a force that should not be underestimated. Faced with this sudden impact, Jillian lost her balance and fell to the ground. Good opportunity. Although it's a coward's kid, it's a good job. Madarame Ikaku immediately raised his knife and rushed towards the opponent's head. "Pierce him, Zukumaru!" The other Shinigami also slashed at Minos Grande's mask and head frantically. Everyone was unreserved and fought with all their strength, veins popping out on their foreheads, and they used all their strength. For a while, all kinds of Zampicut kept slashing at the Minos Grande mask. Finally, the Minos Grande mask shattered. The 11th Squadron Shinigami cheered. There was also a little more recognition in their eyes when they looked at Nanao. Although Nanao used methods that they looked down on, Nanao's strong kid strength could really help them. The last one, looking at the Minos Grande that fell to the ground, Nanao wiped the sweat from her forehead. In a short time, she almost used up all her Ryatsu and physical strength. There was no way fighting with such a huge and terrifying monster would put a huge pressure on the body and mind, and Ryatsu's physical strength would be consumed very quickly. Although she's a woman, she did a great job. "What's your name?" In response to everyone's praise, Nanao just smiled awkwardly but politely. Her eyes were constantly searching. After they dealt with 3 Minos Grande, Nanao found that Uehara Shiraha had disappeared. This made her think wildly. Although she thought she had done well, but she was still a little nervous, afraid of disappointing her teacher. At this moment, Nanao's expression changed, and she looked at the huge figure that suddenly appeared under the continuous sand dunes with panic. "What's wrong?" Ayasiwa Yamachika, who was smiling, followed Nanao's line of sight and was immediately stunned. Why are there so many Minos Grande? How is it possible?" Around them, Jillian kept sticking his head out, and there was no place that was safe. "There must be 50 of them." Madarame Ikaku also opened his narrow eyes. "Just now, 3 of them almost wiped us out. 50 of them." At this time, the other soldiers of the 11th Division also found the Jillian Minos Grande around. The weak-willed soldiers trembled and wailed. "It's over. We're dead. With so many Minos Grande, it's impossible to win. Captain Zaraki, come and save us." At this time, in the temporary headquarters of the Expeditionary Force, Kairaku, Shuinsue's face changed. It was a trap. He didn't expect these Minos Grande to be so cunning and set a trap. Without hesitation, Kairaku Shunsui immediately notified the nearby captain of the 2nd Division, Suifeng, to go to the rescue. Because of his duties, he could not leave his post without permission. At this moment, Kairaku Shunsui could only pray in his heart. Please, Shiraha, take Nanao and escape. You must survive, Shiraha Nanao. Under the sand dunes, Ayase Nanao and a group of Shinigami of the 11th Division are facing densely packed Minos Grande. 50 Minos Grande gathered around, opened his mouth wide, ready to release the powerful red Siro to the Shinigami. Feeling the terrible breath of death and the powerful Ryatsu in the red Siro, the ordinary soldiers collapsed in despair, and their bodies could not move. Teacher Uehara, I will not let you down. Ayase Nanao, who was having difficulty breathing, looked determined. As a disciple of Uehara Shiraha, she did not allow herself to show her ugly appearance. Shinagawa Academy sighed. It's not beautiful to die like this, but I have no regrets to die with you. It's a pity that I didn't fully develop that, otherwise I could kill happily. Madarame Ikaku looked at his Zukumaru with regret. Then he smiled in the direction where Zaraki Kenpachi left in the distance. We must fight to the last moment, and we can't let Boss Zaraki down. Hey, who is that man? What is he doing? At this time, all Shinigami saw a tall figure wearing a death suit standing in front of a group of Minos Grande. That Shinigami, just one man and one sword, stood in front of the group of terrifying Minos Grande that covered the sky. Compared to Jillian, who was more than 100 meters tall, that figure was so small. But the momentum of that person was condensed and did not disperse, and it went straight into the sky, even faintly suppressing the huge Jillian. In an instant, those Jillian lowered their heads and aimed Siro at the figure. At the same time, as if they sensed some threat or received some mysterious order, the other Jillians also surrounded and killed the figure. Countless terrifying Siro locked onto the figure, and the crescent moon in the sky disappeared at this moment, as if they didn't want to see the tragedy that followed. Chapter 39. Instant kill of 50 Minos Grandes at this time. Isenao was the first to recognize the arrogant figure and hurriedly shouted, Teacher Uehara, danger, get out of the way. Uehara Shiraha. Madarame Ikaku also reacted immediately. It's that guy. What does he want to do? As he spoke, he felt cold all over. He recalled the terrible feeling of his blood freezing. Does he want to deal with 50 Minos Grande alone? Shinagawa Academy immediately shook his head and said, even if he has the permanent Shirkai Zampakit, he can't deal with so many Minos Grande at the same time. I know, he wants to sacrifice himself to give us a chance to break through. This is the most reasonable explanation. I want to go with the teacher. Ayase Nanao immediately believed it. Tears came down, and she forced her body to move. It's just that she was too exhausted before, and she was exhausted physically and mentally, so she couldn't bear the heavy and terrifying Minos Grande Ryatsu and continue to move forward. He scared me so much before, I thought this guy was bad. Madarame Ikaku also had tears in his eyes. It turns out that he's also a real man. In his mind, although Uehara Shiraha is not as good as the boss Araki, his tall image has surpassed everyone else. As he spoke, countless red flashes directly submerged Uehara Shiraha's figure. For a moment, the ground shook and the heavy and violent Ryatsu swept the entire space. The powerful impact scattered, raising thousands of sand grains, and a sand rain fell from the sky. This is a hero. Don't waste his sacrifice and intentions. Smart Shinagawa Academy has already sentenced Uehara Shiraha to death. Take advantage of now. We will break out immediately. The other 11 Squadron Shinigami also shouted, the gap is open, run. Thank you, pretty boy. Deputy Commander, good job. There are even a few reckless men who rushed directly to Jillian, who had just released Siro, and were ready to kill him with a knife. Madarame Ikaku also looked at the tall and straight figure in the smoke with red eyes. Real heroes die standing up. Even if they have endured unimaginable heavy blows, they still stand firm. As for Ayase Nanao, she almost fainted from crying, and a hidden power suddenly burst out of her body, rushing towards Uehara Shiraha. At this time, the dead Uehara Shiraha emerged from the dust without any damage. The universal barrier in the skilled realm around him blocked all attacks, and not a grain of sand could fall. Then, Uehara Shiraha looked at the gathered Jillian, held the almost transparent diamond handle of splitting void with both hands, and chopped it down fiercely. Ice Age. The invisible extreme, cold power spread out like a roar, instantly covering all Jillian. In just a moment, all 50 Minos Grande turned into giant ice sculptures more than 100 meters high. Under the moonlight, the 50 ice sculptures like mountains shone brightly. Stand is the embodiment of spiritual power and vitality. White Album is just an ultra-low temperature in a small area in the hands of argumentative Gyakyu. In Uehara Shiraha's hands, it became a natural disaster-level stand. This is the essential difference in the level of life. Then Uehara Shiraha turned around, wanting the group of reckless people behind him to appreciate his work and improve the artistic level of Siri-IDI. As a result, Uehara Shiraha saw that everyone was like petrified, motionless. Those who didn't know would think that this group of people were also hit by the Ice Age. And except for Ayase Nanao, Madarame Ikaku, and Ayase Yumachika, who stood there. The other 11 squatter Shinigami were all in a state of running away, completely escaping in all directions. What are these idiots doing? At this time, Ayase Nanao was so excited that she cried again, this time with joy. Madarame Ikaku, Ayase Yumachika, and other Shinigami of the 11th Division all stopped thinking. Their brains were all frozen, just like the huge Jillian around them. After a while, Madarame Ikaku woke up from his dream and said almost word by word, "Am I not dreaming? Is everything happening in front of me real?" Yumachika, "Yes, it's real." Ayase Yumachika's voice was also a little erratic. In fact, until now, he didn't dare to believe that this was true. Then the two looked at each other, and what they saw in their eyes was incomparable shock and unconcealable horror. Killing 50 Minos Grande instantly with one sword. Is this really something that a human can do? As the same officer, is the gap so big? Can those Shinigami captains do such a thing? Especially Madarame Ikaku thought that he had dared to challenge such a strong man before, and felt that he was really super brave. Before, he just felt ashamed like a clown. Now Ikaku is just glad that he survived. Fighting with such a man may be the second most glorious moment in his life. The first is, of course, to fight with Boss Zaraki. Of course, neither of them dared to think whether Captain Zaraki was so strong, because they really didn't know. At this time, the other Shinigami of the 11th Division finally woke up, because their brains were full of muscles. Their reactions were more direct. This group of combat Shinigami patted their chests and shouted, desperately venting their excitement of escaping death. At the same time, they shouted with conviction, "The deputy commander is too strong. Long live Captain Uehara. He killed 50 Minos Grande with one sword. I'm afraid Captain Zaraki will. If you dare to disrespect Captain Zaraki, you will commit seppuku." At this time, Suefeng, who was rushing to support, also stopped and frowned, staring at the huge ice sculptures standing in the desert in the distance. Even if they were frozen, these ice sculptures always exude a frightening aura, beautiful, dangerous, weird, deadly. But compared to that Uehara Shiraha, these are nothing. Why is a mere 7th seat so strong? How'd he do it? Originally, she thought that the strong white hit strength that Uehara Shiraha showed in the second team was the limit. Now it seems that it is only a tiny part of his strength. Zampakit, Shuinpa, Kid, white hits, all are excellent and strong. And it is so mysterious that you can't understand it. Such a monster has only been a Shinigami for 20 years. Suefeng Xanchnin couldn't help but curse again. What the hell is this? She had cursed Uehara Shiraha many times before, but the meaning and emotion were completely different. Chapter 40 Kinpachi. What is the difference between the king and the mount? Between the dunes, Uehara Shiraha was using the power of Shinigami to crush 50 Minos Grande ice sculptures. Blue spirits filled the entire space, and countless spirits began to return to Soul Society because they were purified. The power of Shinigami can purify the sins of spirits after death, including the souls of hollows. This wave of his Shinigami power will definitely be greatly enhanced. The Zero who is able to withstand the low-level Minos Grande Jillian before may now be able to take on the Zero of the intermediate Minos Grande Ajuches. At this time, a group of Shinigami surrounded him. Teacher Uehara. Ayase Nanao was still in tears at this moment. Although she was also extremely shocked by Uehara Shiraha's powerful strength, she was more worried. Just now, she was really scared and thought she was really going to lose teacher Uehara completely. Well, Nanao, why are you crying? Isn't it all resolved? Uehara Shiraha glanced at everyone. Did they bully you? Everyone, including Madarame Ikaku, took a step back. Only Ayasegawa Yumachika, who had been strategizing before, showed up. You bastards, you're not only ugly, but also extremely ugly. Ayasegawa was numb. If the person on the opposite side directly chopped him at this time, he would be finished. Maybe he would become a spirit, like those Minos Grande, and ascend to heaven. Fortunately, Ayase Nanao helped Ayasegawa Yumachika out of the predicament. Teacher Uehara, I was too worried about you. There's nothing to worry about. It doesn't matter how many of these people come. Uehara Shiraha looked indifferent. At this moment, a wild and rough voice came from distance. I heard something very interesting. It's really interesting. Everyone turned their heads and saw a tall and burly man like a beast standing in the moonlight with a knife. The man had a fierce look in his eyes and a hideous face. He wore a black-eye mask on his right eye. His hair was divided into several strands and stood up like a sword. There were small bells hanging on the ends of his hair. As the man appeared, a murderous intent and Ryatsu rushed over like a substance. Instantly, except for Uehara Shiraha, everyone else felt a chill in their hearts. It seemed that there was a cold blade close to the skin and placed on a vital point. At this time, Madarame Ikaku and Ayasegawa Yumachika shouted first, "Boss Zaraki! Captain Zaraki!" This beast-like man was the captain of the 11th Division, Zaraki Kenpachi, known as Immune to Death, who was said to be immortal. The other 11th Squadron Shinigami also woke up from the Ryatsu shock just now and greeted Zaraki Kenpachi one after another. Some of them were quick-talking and told about Uehara Shiraha's amazing record just now. After hearing those words, Zaraki Kenpachi's golden pupil shrank slightly. Then, he took a step forward and almost instantly came to Uehara Shiraha with a fanatical and excited smile on his face. "Is it you? You killed 50 Minos Grande with one sword? Just after eating dessert, you encountered a feast. How lucky!" After saying that, he burst into a terrifying momentum all over his body. Killing intent filled the air, and Ryatsu surged. The area where Zaraki Kenpachi was located seemed to be covered with a layer of blood mist, and even the moon in the sky seemed to have turned into a blood moon. In the blood red, the beast named Zaraki Kenpachi let out a terrifying roar and excited laughter. "Let's fight." Under the impact of murderous intent and Ryatsu, Ayase Nanao really felt that she was pierced through the chest by some cold, sharp blade. She was already in a bad state and felt her mind go blank. Her body softened and fell backwards. Uehara Shiraha stretched out his strong arms and gently embraced Ayase Nanao. Then he gently patted the other's head, and a white light flashed. In just a moment, Ayase Nanao felt a clear mind, and his eyes became bright again. The body that was completely dry was also rejuvenated with vitality. Ayase Nanao looked at Uehara Shiraha with gratitude, and then quickly hid behind him, not daring to continue to face Zaraki Kenpachi. "Before we begin, please allow me to ask a question." Facing Zaraki Kenpachi, who was full of murderous intent and looked like a madman, Uehara Shiraha had a calm face. "Kenpachi, what's the difference between a king and a mount?" He didn't want to fight with a cheater like Zaraki Kenpachi. A super blood cow with amazing defense is annoying enough, and this guy can continuously unlock power during the battle, becoming stronger and stronger. Although Uehara Shiraha has done everything he can to kill this guy with one blow, it is still possible to kill him directly. But there is no benefit in winning, so why bother? Even if he wins, he will suffer retribution, because according to tradition, Whoever kills Kenpachi will be the new Kenpachi. Uehara Shiraha would not be the captain even if he was crazy, considering the group of rude men with ugly faces and bad hairstyles in front of him. Zaraki Kenpachi looked indifferent. I don't know, that kind of thing doesn't matter anyway. You're not scared, are you? Or have you run out of strength? I can give you time to recover. It seems that you don't understand at all. You are not qualified to let me draw your sword like this. Uehara Shiraha knew that this person was a natural fighting machine. For Zaraki Kenpachi, the only pleasure is killing and fighting. Fighting with life, hanging by a thread, is the meaning of his life. However, Zaraki Kenpachi pursues a wholehearted fight between both parties, so just refuse. In order to enjoy the fun of fighting, Zaraki Kenpachi will not force others to fight. Sure enough, Zaraki Kenpachi just said with a disappointed face, "You are so strong. Why don't you like fighting? What a pity. When you figure out you can find me, I will wait for you. Then I will give you a little discount and let you cut me first." Aegean is really generous. At this moment, a pink-haired loli suddenly appeared from behind Zaraki Kenpachi. Madarame, Ikaku, and others were all surprised and exclaimed, "Vice Captain, so you have been here all the time." Ayase Nanao looked at the little girl with big eyes and pink hair curiously. The vice captain of the 11th Division turned out to be an ordinary little girl. So weird, I was sleeping on Aegean's back just now. Hello, Xiao Guangguang and Xia Kinkin. The pink-haired loli had 2 symmetrical red circles on her face that looked like blush. Then, the pink-haired Lolita introduced herself to Uehara Shiraha and Ayase Nanao. "Hello, my name is Kusajishi Ichiro. Don't look at me like this. I am the vice captain of the 11th Division." Ichiro, what a good name. Uehara Shiraha didn't want to stay with this group of reckless men and said directly, "Everyone has worked hard today. Temporarily return to the territory and take a short rest. When we return to Siriidei, Captain Yamamoto will reward you according to your merits, and there'll be a lot of gold tickets." After saying that, he ignored Zaraki Kenpachi's reluctant eyes and left directly. "Captain Zaraki, see you at headquarters." Ayase Nanao saluted Zaraki Kenpachi slightly and left in a hurry. Looking at the backs of the two, Zaraki Kenpachi nodded and said disdainfully, "There are so many prey waiting for me. How can I rest?" Uehara Shiraha, "You can't escape. Sooner or later, you will fight with me with all your strength." At this moment, in the sand dunes, Aizen and Ikamaru Jin, wearing invisible cloaks, are looking at the former battlefield. Ikamaru Jin's eyes opened a little, looking at the blue spirits still dissipating in the distance, and said in surprise, "Lord Aizen, Shinigami has another powerful fighting force." Before, he suspected that Uehara Shiraha had hidden some of his strength. Now it seems that this is not hiding part of his strength, but hiding an iceberg. And what is exposed is only the tip of the iceberg. Aizen stared into the distance and thought for a moment, then said in a gentle voice, "It doesn't matter. The stronger the Shinigami are, the faster they can help us clean up Hueco Mundo. In this way, we can conquer Hueco Mundo faster." Ikamaru Jin narrowed his eyes again and showed a familiar sinister smile. When Lord Aizen conquers Hueco Mundo and perfects the hollow experiment, he will surpass all Shinigami. It's really exciting to think about it. In that case, let's speed up and invite those people from the Hueco Palace to be our guests. Aizen's eyes flashed, and he had a plan in mind. Chapter 41. The Strongest Ice-Type Zanpakuto. The news that Uehara Shiraha killed 50 Minos Grande with one sword reached Siriidei. This time, Uehara Shiraha really became famous. Whether or not people knew about Uehara Shiraha before, they all knew about him now. The officers and vice captains were talking about it. That Uehara Shiraha, is he that strong? He killed 50 Minos Grande with one sword. Is he captain level? 20-year-old captain. When I was 20, I was still playing in the mud. It is said that the Zanpakuto of the 7th seat of Uehara is the same as Captain Zaraki's. Both are permanent shurikai. Are all the Zanpakuto of permanent shurikai so terrifying? The shurikai can freeze 50 Minos Grande instantly. This should be the strongest ice-type Zanpakuto, right? Another monster has appeared in our Godai 13. As for Uehara Shiraha's fans, almost all of them shouted in unison, "So cool, Lord Uehara!" In the tea room of the first squadron, after receiving the battle report, Okiga Jinshiro sprayed a mouthful of tea directly on Shure Sasakaibe. Shure Sasakaibe was so shocked that he couldn't speak and forgot to wipe the tea off his face. Then the two looked at each other, both with horror on their faces. Captain level before the age of 30. They all underestimated Uehara Shiraha, thinking that this guy was only captain status, but his strength is almost captain status. In the Technical Development Bureau, Kuratsuchi Mayuri quickly got the battle video of that time. In the private laboratory filled with various strange equipment, Kuratsuchi Mayuri stared at the 50 frozen Minos Grande in the video. After a while, he hammered the instrument hard. Damn it! Why can't I collect the remaining Zampakit Ryatsu? Why are the Zampakit of these permanent Shurkai so weird? It seems that I have to go there in person, just in time to store some backup organs for Sleeper Number 5. In the 6th Division's barracks, the now very young Kachiki looked at his grandfather, Kachiki Jinrei. "Grandpa, I want to go to Hueco Mundo." After saying that, he clenched the Senbenzakura in his hand. "Byakuya, no doubt, you are a genius," Kachiki Jinrei said earnestly. "If it is based on the responsibility, you could go to Hueco Mundo and join the expeditionary force. If it is for the sake of competition, then there is no point." Because of the tragic case of the failure of education of the son-in-law, Kachiki Xiangha, Kachiki Jinrei adopted a laissez-faire education for Byakuya and never criticized him. Genius! Byakuya Kuchiki never doubted this before, but now he is a little uncertain. When Uehara Shiraha and Ayasinanao returned to the temporary headquarters of the Expeditionary Force again, everyone's attitude changed. After a great victory, the expressions of the Shinigami became much more relaxed, less solemn and nervous. Their eyes looking at Uehara Shiraha were also full of shock and admiration, and there was no doubt and disdain before. This is the benefit brought by strength. As for Uehara Shiraha himself, he was just like before, walking slowly and leisurely, like strolling in the flower street, relaxed and free to the extreme. He didn't seem to think that killing 50 Minos Grande was a big deal, nor did he care about the change in everyone's attitude. At this moment, Kairaku Shunsue's unique, exaggerated voice came. "Our great hero is back." Especially when he saw Ayase Nanao, whose temperament had changed drastically. His smile became even brighter. After just a short while, Ayase Nanao had undergone some amazing transformation, from a rookie to a mature warrior. While saying this, Kairaku Shunsui handed Uehara Shiraha a small wine jar. "The conditions are limited. Please forgive me." "Good wine." Uehara Shiraha's eyes lit up and took a sip and drank it all. The mellow wine flowed down his throat, and a large amount of spiritual power and spirit particles instantly evaporated in his body. After a sip of wine, Uehara Shiraha's Ryatsu, physical strength that he had just consumed, was immediately restored a lot. The annual production of this kind of precious wine is extremely rare, and it can be said that you can't buy it even if you have money. Generally, only Shinigami captains and great nobles have quotas. "Nanao, you are tired after fighting for a long time. Go and rest first." Kairaku Shunsui saw that although Nanao Ayase was in good spirits, her physical strength and Ryatsu had reached their limits. Nanao Ayase looked at Uehara Shiraha, who nodded to her, so she saluted the two and went down to rest. After Nanao Ayase left, Kairaku Shunsui said in amazement, "Brother Baiyu, I didn't expect you to hide so deeply. A 20-year-old captain. I wonder if the old man Shan was so strong when he was young." As the general leader, there was suddenly an invincible trump card under his command, and there was nothing more comfortable than this. He immediately felt the pressure reduced, and he was already thinking about how to arrange Uehara Shiraha. Uehara Shiraha put down the empty wine jar, burped, and said, "Brother Kairaku, I know you have a lot of ideas now, but I am sorry to tell you that I will act freely next." "Why?" Kairaku Shunsui was a little confused. before coming. They had agreed to advance and retreat together. Although Hueco Mundo is full of dangers, the two of them join forces and there is basically no possibility of failure. Uehara Shiraha shrugged. Plans are not as fast as changes. I plan to rush into the Minos Grande forest and contain Minos Grande. Otherwise, the soldiers will suffer too much damage. When completing special tasks, you can also brush up military merits and Shinigami powers, which is not bad. Brother Baiyu, you have worked hard. Kairaku Shunsui took out another jar of wine with a painful look. Based on his understanding of Uehara Shiraha, this time, this brother really did his best. Ordinary people don't have this face. It should be because of his big face. Uehara Shiraha put the jar of wine away without hesitation. Then the two discussed the current situation and future strategies for a while. In fact, there is nothing to discuss. Uehara Shiraha has long known that even if someone is playing tricks, as long as the expeditionary force maintains a numerical advantage, then the void is nothing to be afraid of. In Hueco Mundo, hollows are very difficult to deal with. But in terms of high-end combat power, one Zaraki Kenpachi and one Kairaku Shunsui can almost overwhelm everything. In addition, hollows are not good at group combat. So the outcome of this war has already been determined. The only difference is whether the Shinigami side wins a narrow victory, a small victory, or a big victory. Therefore, the best strategy is to take advantage of the Shinigami's strict discipline and unified combat, and move forward steadily. Chapter 42. Minos Grande Forest, 7 Flashes. In a tent that was firmly guarded by many barriers, Uehara Shiraha looked at the panel. Sure enough, standard white album has been upgraded from Grandmaster to Deshang. The S-level ability is comparable to Zampakit Bankai. Whether it is Universal Barrier or White Album, it is overwhelming against Jillian. Ordinary Zampakit Shurkai can never achieve this level, and even some Bankai can't do it, such as Bankai Iron Fist Broken Wind and Bankai Dragon Gate Zukumaru. Deshang's S-level ability is definitely not as good as Yamamoto Old Man Zankatachi, but it is definitely not weaker than Byakuya Kachiki's Bankai at the beginning of the story. Waking up early the next morning, Uehara Shiraha first completed today's routine daily tasks. He casually greeted the 2 Shinigami who were keeping watch for him and received the reward of Ryatsu +1, Universal Barrier +1. The 2 Shinigami were a little flattered. They didn't expect a big man like Uehara Shiraha to be so friendly. Then, Uehara Shiraha saw Ayase Nanao, who was in high spirits and looked tireless. Looking at Ayase Nanao, who was eager to try, Uehara Shiraha shook his head. Nanao, do you remember the basic skills of spiritual power control I mentioned? Teacher Uehara, of course I remember. It is to imagine a circle in your mind, fill the circle with the thickest and deepest color, and then integrate your mind into the center of the circle. Try now. Yes. Ayase Nanao tried it confidently. Compared with before, she felt that her strength had greatly increased, and she had experienced the test of the battlefield. There was no reason to fail in basic skills. Ayase Nanao habitually entered a state of concentration and then became restless. She opened her eyes in confusion and looked at Uehara Shiraha with a nervous expression. This technique is the key to all kid. You should practice it 100 times first. Uehara Shiraha knew that the reason for this situation was that Ayase Nanao's strength increased too quickly, so her foundation was unstable. Simply put, she was too immature. There was no other way to do this except to practice more and accumulate more. In an instant, Ayase Nanao gathered all the joy and complacency in her heart and said respectfully, "Yes, Mr. Uehara." After arranging Ayase Nanao, Uehara Shiraha came to the battlefield yesterday. Since so many Jillians could gather here quickly, it means that there should be an entrance to the Minos Grande forest nearby. Sure enough, soon, Uehara Shiraha found a hidden entrance in the distance. After passing through a thick layer of sand and stone obstacles, Uehara Shiraha came to a very spacious stone passage. The dark and deep passage led obliquely to the depths of the ground. After walking along the passage for a while, Uehara Shiraha felt an ominous malice entangled around him, making the air around him cold. At the same time, he also heard low and terrifying roars. These sounds were different, but without exception, they were all filled with chaotic, violent, and abnormal emotions. Uehara Shiraha looked relaxed and continued to walk deep into the underground along the passage. After several shumpa, he came to the end of the passage and found himself in a rock cave. Outside the cave, a huge underground world stretched out, boundless. The wet rocks formed walls that divided the entire underground world. Countless huge stone trees grew straight, penetrating the barrier above, forming an impenetrable jungle. The corners of the rock wall and the roots of the trees were covered with gray-green mosses and mushrooms of various colors. This is the Minos Grande forest, which is also the nest of the hollows. Most of the hollows that appear in the present world live here. In addition, this is also the place where all the Jillians wander and stay. Places like this are dangerous. Facing the endless siege of many Jillians, even the captain-level Shinigami can't cope. At the same time, Uehara Shiraha keenly noticed, outside the dense stone forest, there are huge figures wandering and gathering. As his spiritual perception was transmitted, the powerful Minos Grande Ryatsu surged over like a wave. In the impact of the stormy Ryatsu, Uehara Shiraha remained motionless. He persisted for a while, and before the enemy was seen, the system prompt came first. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing Special Mission 9. Find the Forest of Minos Grande. You will be rewarded with the A-level ability 7 Flashes. 7 Flashes level. A-level proficiency. Beginner type. Magic move ability. Cut out 7 steel wires at the same time, instantly shredding everything around. After mastering it, you can even release Kid and the barrier by slashing. Introduction 1. 7 Flashes is the unique skill of the female Saint Kanzaki Kori in a certain magical index. It can kill 7 people in an instant and is the essence of the Church of Necessary Evil. 2. Obtained after completing Complete Special Mission 9. Find a Forest of Minos Grande. 3. No matter how good your swordsmanship is or how long your legs are, what's the use of having no brains? You will be a plane for the rest of your life. When Uehara Shiraha saw the ability introduction, his eyes lit up. 7 slashes at the same time. This instant kill technique can only be said to be very good, but at most it is only at the B-level. And the ability to release Kid and the barrier with special slashes is very excellent, and it is also good among A-level abilities. Ordinary Kid is of course fine, but if you can release top-level Had, the power will be strong. In the defense of Karakura Town, the old man sacrificed an arm to kill Aizen and release the top-level Had. 1 Blade Cremation. As long as Uehara Shiraha improves 7 Flashes to the perfect or perfect level of proficiency, he can release the real 1 Blade Cremation and even release 1 Blade Cremation at the same time. If you can master the targeted Kid seal like Uehara Kisuk, then 7 Flashes will become more threatening. Uehara Shiraha also has an impression of Kamisaki Kaori. This Kamisaki Kaori is not only a saint, but also the leader of a religion. She has a noble status, a cold temperament, and a long sword and even longer legs. But her brain is really not enough. She knew that the leader Laura was a fox, but she was fooled by the other party with a few words and chased index to cut. Facts have proved that if you don't read much, people will not only deceive you, but also deceive you to death. With 7 Flashes, Uehara Shiraha is more confident. However, since it is rare to come to the Minos Grande forest, he can imitate the Shirley Slope Sword God and brush up his proficiency and improve his ability. Thinking of this, Uehara Shiraha glanced at Jillian, who was slowly gathering, and the splitting void in his hand suddenly ignited an invisible flame. The target for sword practice is here. Chapter 43. Minos Grande Forest, unparalleled mowing in the forest of Minos Grande. Uehara Shiraha looked at the huge Jillians that were densely packed around him, as if he saw a pile of experience points. It takes more than 100 hollows to devour and fuse to form a Jillian, but most of the Jillians have no self-awareness. These Jillians will only wander aimlessly in the forest of Minos Grande. So in the eyes of Uehara Shiraha, these bulky Minos Grandes are actually sitting ducks. However, as Minos Grandes, Jillians also have steel skin and high-speed regeneration. If you can't destroy the head or internal organs, you can't kill them. Before, Uehara Shiraha consumed a lot of Ryatsu and used S-level abilities to freeze all the Jillians directly. But this time, Uehara Shiraha is not going to use the very expensive Ice Age. He glanced at the ability on the panel that is dedicated to hollows. Breathing of the Sun level, B-level ability proficiency, proficient ability, contains the characteristics of the Sun, also known as the initial breathing, which derives the 5 basic breathing methods of water, fire, rock, wind, and thunder. There are 12 sword types in total, including Yuanwu, Biluazishan, Liang Hong Jing, Huanri Hong Train, Burning Bones Yin Yang, Yang Huato, Flying Wheel Yang Yin, Xiang Zhuan Zhuan, Hui Wei and Guang, Hikaran Long Tuo, and Yinwu. Using the 12 sword types in turn in an instant is the 13th type, Reincarnation, and the reincarnation never stops. Introduction 1. The combat ceiling of Demon Slayer is the sword art inheritance created by Yuichi Tsugaku, which makes Musen suffer from sun-breathing PTSD. 2. Obtained after completing Special Mission 6 Famous First Team. 3. I want to get along with you as an ordinary person, but it brought me harm. I'm a kendo genius. In the low magic world with almost no magic, Yuichi Tsugaku can cut more than 1,000 swords in 1 second with one style, reincarnation, and almost cut out the finale. The power of reincarnation can be imagined. It can only be said that Demon Slayer dragged Yuichi Tsugaku and sun breathing behind. In the hands of Uehara Shiraha, who possesses a powerful Ryatsu, Breath of the Sun, and reincarnation, will become even stronger. He casually waved, splitting void, and the invisible flames burned the space. The power of the sun and it subtly restrained all evil spirits. When these Jillians approached, Uehara Shiraha Shunpo flashed, and the 12 swords of Breath of the Sun were already used. He did not stick to the moves, but showed the essence of Breath of the Sun one by one. With full exertion, Uehara Shiraha's swords were blazing. The 12 swords were used by him at will, as if it was the dance of the god of fire. Uehara Shiraha could hit a Jillian with every move and every style, and then Shunpo flashed and continued to attack the next one. All the wounds cut by the sword of Breath of the Sun were flashing with fire. The Ryatsu, like a flame, penetrated into the body of Minos Grande along those wounds and completely ignited it. Therefore, wherever Uehara Shiraha passed, he left behind a pile of giant fire pillars that burned and collapsed. This is the sun breathing, a high-speed regeneration that specifically defeats hollows. When he finally arrived in front of a group of Jillians, Uehara Shiraha took a deep breath. Reincarnation! In an instant, the 12 sword types were completed in one go, and then connected end to end, repeating over and over again, forming an endless flame movement. In just a moment, the reincarnation sword type penetrated, cut, and ignited all the dozen Jillians in front of him. Looking at the burning Minos Grande forest, Uehara Shiraha was very satisfied with the power of the sun breathing. Although it is only a B-level ability, it has a special attack against hollows and can also improve the proficiency of slashing techniques. It is also a trump card if you practice it well. In a Shinigami world, it is very difficult to have one trick to eat all the world. After all, when facing the small Aizen, Yaskin, Ichigo Buddha also turned into a carpet. Yamamoto Genricize Raijin Jaka can even destroy the 3 realms once it is Bankai. Then, the old man Yamamoto was always targeted, and either he couldn't use his ultimate move, or his ultimate move was in vain, and finally died with hatred. Even Ichibai, the old silver coin who has lived for who knows how many 10,000 years, was very afraid of Yuhabaka's eye of all-knowing and all-powerful. Then 1,000 years ago, the monk used the Soul King's right hand to block the eye of all-knowing and all-powerful directly. After 1,000 years of bloody battle, Yuhabak reopened his eyes and absorbed the power of the Soul King to show off. But his ability was blocked by a silver arrow, and then he became the new Soul King. So in the Shinigami world, no matter how powerful your ability is, you are afraid of being targeted. Therefore, Uehara Shiraha is ready to rely on the task system to accumulate a trump card. As long as there are so many cards that Ichibai Haisub can't erase them, even if he writes all the Ikamanji, then there is no need to worry about being targeted. Thinking of this, Uehara Shiraha looked at the burning Minos Grande forest in front of him, and his fighting spirit increased. For a time, the Minos Grande forest made Jillian, who was feared by ordinary Shinigami, all become Uehara Shiraha's upgraded and strengthened monsters. 3 days passed in a blink of an eye, and Uehara Shiraha's proficiency in Zankinkatsu, sun breathing, and universal barrier improved a lot. His strength also increased rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. During the process, Uehara Shiraha only used the most basic Zankinkatsu and sun breathing. However, because sun breathing has a very obvious restraint on hollows, his efficiency in killing hollows is extremely high. Soon the Technology Development Bureau received a report. At this moment, Suifeng and Zaraki Kenpachi were discussing the next battle plan with Kayaraka Shunsui at the expeditionary headquarters. Next to him stood Nanao, whose aura was obviously much stronger. With the previous battle experience and the guidance of Uehara Shiraha, Nanao now has a real strong demeanor. Hey, don't you have stronger prey? I'm tired of those ordinary things, and they're not even qualified to sharpen their knives. By the way, where did Uehara Shiraha go? When will that guy come to fight me? Zaraki Kenpachi complained with some dissatisfaction. At the beginning, he was quite happy. After all, there were so many opponents here. But after a while of slashing, Zaraki Kenpachi was a little uninterested. Even the intermediate Minos Grande Ajuchas were not enough for him to chop with one knife. It was too boring, especially after seeing the strength of Uehara Shiraha. Zaraki Kenpachi became more and more impatient to fight with these weak scum. Suifeng was also a little dissatisfied. Although that guy made great contributions to the establishment before, as a deputy leader, he cannot act privately. His actions will only reduce the efficiency of the action and slow down the pace of the expeditionary force. Hearing Suifeng's words, Nanao wanted to refute, but due to the other party's identity, she could only temporarily endure it. However, she still looked at the captain of the second team with an indignant look. Nanao is also the kind of person who takes rules and regulations very seriously, but if it is Mr. Uehara, he must have his own reasons for doing so. This is a report from the Technology Development Bureau. You can take a look. Kayaraku Shunsui, under the bamboo hat, took out a document with a smile and handed it to Suifeng. Looking at Kayaraku Shunsui's obviously unfriendly smile, Suifeng frowned. She took the document and opened it, and a look of surprise appeared on her cold face. He actually eliminated thousands of Minos Grande alone? Is this report true? Impossible. No wonder Suifeng was so surprised. Although they all knew Uehara Shiraha was very strong through the previous battles, and he might even have the strength of captain. But it was a bit outrageous to eliminate so many Minos Grande in just a few days, even the lowest level Minos Grande. You have to know that in Hueco Mundo, the strength of Minos Grande will be greatly enhanced, and with their strong physical abilities, it will be difficult to kill them in large numbers. In addition, Shinigami also need time to recover Ryatsu and physical strength. So it is incredible that one person can achieve such amazing results by fighting continuously. Suifeng asked himself that he couldn't do it. Zaraki Kenpachi's left eye lit up. I knew he was strong. Sure enough, I should have killed him first that day. Kayaraku Shunsui spread his hands and said, I also find it incredible, but this is the fact. Brother Bayu did exceed the predetermined goal of the expeditionary force by himself. Although my Nanao, and I miss him very much and hope he will come back as soon as possible, his efficiency is indeed higher than all of us combined. Hearing this, Ayase Nanao blushed, glared at Kaiaraka Shun Sui, then held his head high with a proud look on his face. Suifeng was also speechless. He exceeded the task by himself, and her previous accusations only made them look more incompetent. Chapter 44. Asido's shock. Uehara Shiraha was not aware of what happened to the temporary headquarters. However, even if he knew, he would not care. Now, apart from completing daily tasks, he spends the rest of his time killing hollows to become stronger. Normally, there are not so many suitable enemies for him to practice. This feeling of rapidly becoming stronger every moment also makes Uehara Shiraha a little bit overwhelmed. So, these days, he pushed all the way and killed directly to the center of Minos Grande Forest. If it were an ordinary captain, he would definitely not be able to fight continuously like him. Even if the combat power can keep up, Ryatsu, physical strength and mental state cannot keep up. However, Uehara Shiraha is different. Although he does not have a gifted physique like Zaraki Kenpachi, he is a stand user after all. The stand is the embodiment of vitality and mental strength. The stronger the vitality, the stronger the stand. The same is true in reverse. After all, heavy bleeding is just a superficial injury to the stand user. Therefore, the stronger the stand, the stronger the vitality of the stand user. Therefore, every time the proficiency of White Album is improved, Uehara Shiraha's vitality and recovery ability will be greatly improved. This is why Kaiaraka Shun Sui envied Uehara Shiraha so much, because Uehara Shiraha really has a pair of iron kidneys. After Uehara Shiraha's proficiency in White Album reached perfection, his physique became stronger, and he was not far behind monsters like Zaraki Kenpachi. In addition, with the splitting void space and shadow clone, he can rest at will, so his endurance is terrifying. Even after fighting for so many days, Uehara Shiraha is still energetic and full of energy. After burning a group of Jillians again, he keenly sensed a Ryatsu wave that was different from the hollow approaching rapidly from a distance. Uehara Shiraha looked up and saw a figure Shuimpa coming from a distance. This person had short reddish-brown hair, wore a death hegemony costume, and wore a hollow mask similar to an antelope skull on his face, which looked very strange. Seeing this strange outfit, Uehara Shiraha immediately recognized the person. Asido, the ruthless man who killed hundreds of years of hollows in the Minos Grande Forest. Soon, Asido came to Uehara Shiraha. He looked at the burning Minos Grande Jillian in front of him and said in shock, "You did all this? Which team captain are you?" Originally, Asido thought that he had not communicated with people for so many years and would not be able to speak easily. But unexpectedly, these questions came out of his mouth when they met for the first time. The scene in front of him was really too shocking. In his memory, only his good friend Kuryoshiki Kenpachi could do this, and it was still under the condition of opening Bankai. Therefore, he was sure that the young Shinigami in front of him must be a captain. "I am Uehara Shiraha, the 7th seed of the first team, not a captain." Uehara Shiraha looked at Asido with interest. In the plot, this prominent person is ruthless and doesn't talk much. After saving Rukia, who strayed into the Minos Grande Forest, he not only did not communicate with her, but fought with her. But now he seems to be quite willing to communicate. Asido was surprised again. 7th seed of the first team? Is Godai, 13 Shinigami, so strong now? With such a strong strength, he can only be a mere 7th seed. Is Godai, 13, so stubborn now? If he goes back now, will he only be an ordinary Shinigami? Then, Asido took off his mask and shook his short and straight eyebrows and said, "My name is Asido, and I am also a Shinigami. A long time ago, my companions and I came here to chase the hollows that invaded Rukongai. After that, I stayed here to kill hollows. Thank you for your hard work. You are a hero." Uehara Shiraha nodded. He didn't dislike people with such beliefs. Besides, if all the Godii 13 were such Shinigami, he would be able to fish better. Ashido said calmly, "All my companions died at the hands of hollows. Died in front of my eyes. I just avenged them. This is the nest of hollows. Almost all the hollows that invaded the real world came from here. So, I kill hollows here every day. May I ask if there are fewer hollows invading the real world in recent years?" He asked this not to boast about his achievements, but just to know whether these hundreds of years of efforts were in vain. "I'm sorry it's not. Uehara Shiraha knows very well that some people do not want the hollow to disappear. In the eyes of those who put the overall situation first, Asido's actions are meaningless and even hinder the overall situation. This is why Uehara Shiraha has to keep getting stronger, just to use a knife to face those people and say, 'Lousy is the overall situation.'" Asido looked gloomy, but when he saw the scene of the sea of fire and hell around him, he immediately cheered up and said, "With a strong man like you, my failure is not important." Then, Uehara Shiraha told Asido about the situation of the Hueco Mundo Expeditionary Force. It's already the 11th generation Kenpachi, Kuriyashiki. At this point, Asido stopped and asked, "Do you want to go to my base to recover?" In his opinion, this powerful Shinigami must have consumed a lot of energy after such a fierce battle. And his base is relatively safe, allowing Uehara Shiraha to recover. Uehara Shiraha did not refuse Asido's invitation. Half a day later, Asido and Uehara Shiraha were already in a cave. The entire cave was shrouded by a barrier that isolated Ryatsu and sound. In front of the two, there was a small fire. Asido was patiently roasting a bunch of mushrooms of different colors. While roasting, he also painted some dark green moss on the mushrooms. Finally, Asido handed Uehara Shiraha a bunch of things that looked like dark cuisine. Looking at the bunch of black and slightly green roasted mushrooms in front of him, Uehara Shiraha tried to taste it. The reason why Uehara Shiraha dared to eat these things. On the one hand, Asido had eaten them for so many years without any problems, so there should be no problem. And even if there is a problem, he has a horse charm. On the other hand, Uehara Shiraha actually has a problem with Hueco. The ingredients of Mundo are quite curious. I remember that in the plot, there was a man named Yugen Ora who particularly liked the food of Hueco Mundo and even decided to specialize in cooking. Maybe it's because this place is too barren? Things that don't taste good are embarrassed to grow? After eating the mushroom, Uehara Shiraha's eyes lit up and he exclaimed, "It's delicious, worth a drink." The taste of this mushroom, even Uehara Shiraha, who is used to eating all kinds of delicacies, can't find fault with it. And it is completely different from the previous delicacies. It is a very special taste, but it is indeed very delicious. After saying that, Uehara Shiraha picked up the wine glass on the ground, drank a sip of wine, and then took another bite of mushrooms. Asido also picked up the wine glass. As soon as the wine entered his throat, he showed a nostalgic expression. He hasn't drunk such wine for a long time, and he hasn't seen Shinigami for a long time. Chapter 45, Top-Notch Sparring Partner. I can't throw 50 punches. In an empty underground cave, Asido and Uehara Shiraha, who had eaten and drunk enough, were fighting. Uehara Shiraha, who knew Asido's strength, would certainly not let go of such a good sparring partner. Asido was also very curious about Uehara Shiraha's strength. So, the two began a friendly but exciting competition. At the moment of the fight, Asido's sharp blade was unsheathed, and Shuinpa slashed directly at Uehara Shiraha's right arm. Uehara Shiraha reacted quickly and raised his blade to block. But the moment the blades of both sides touched, Asido's figure disappeared. So fast, Uehara Shiraha was also slightly startled in his heart, and then he sensed Asido's position again from the right rear. This time, Asido chose to slash. Uehara Shiraha dodged it nimbly. Facing the enemy he had fought for the first time, Asido behaved very rationally. He did not rashly choose to get close, but kept probing. During the fight, Asido controlled the distance very well, constantly moving around to find opportunities, but the sharp blade in his hand never left Uehara Shiraha's vital points. Both of them only use Shuinpa, white hits, and Zanjutsu to fight. For hundreds of years, Asido has used these three basic Shinigami techniques to slaughter countless Jillians and Ajuchas. For the mastery of these three techniques, Asido has reached a superb level. At this time, Uehara Shiraha also realized that Asido was not just fast. If the opponent was simply fast, it would not be so difficult. Thanks to Shihui and Yoruichi, Uehara Shiraha is still very experienced in dealing with speed-type enemies. And Asido's strongest point is not the skilled captain-level Shuinpa, but the strong experience and skills. Just like now, every move of Asido is very reasonable, and the timing is perfect, as if he has predicted his reaction. After just a few rounds of fighting, this guy seems to have seen through him. This is the benefit of experience, Uehara Shiraha sighed in his heart. As expected of a tough guy who has been slashing at the void for hundreds of years in Hueco Mundo, his combat experience and combat skills are really terrifying. This is, of course, because Uehara Shiraha did not use various system capabilities.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.